Trish L. Gleason, Assistant City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. in the Historic Federal Building for the purpose of receiving presentations on certain fiscal year 2027 department budgets.
Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for April 22nd, 2026. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during tonight's budget presentation. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input for the presentation they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access codes that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which presentation you would like to speak to in the chat function, or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which presentation you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. Attendance at tonight's meeting is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Leindecker.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Staver.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
All right, thanks, Trish. Welcome, everybody. It is our final night of budget hearings before we have our final public hearing to pass the budget next week. So we've got some good ones tonight. I just want to say it's been a really good week of discussions. I think we've had some really good discussions in this room, lots of great community feedback, so we really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to hearing what we have on the docket for us today. So I believe we are starting with the police department. So Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. Joe Messerich, Assistant Chief of Police. Just like to introduce our command staff and our police accountant in the back of the room. Lieutenant Bruce Deutsch, Captain Steve Radloff. You can go ahead and raise your hands. Lieutenant Rick Fulmer, Captain Brendan Welsh, Captain Jason Pace, our police accountant, Ms. Susan Merriman, Captain Scott Baxter, Captain Shannon in the back of the room keeping us all safe, and then obviously Chief Jensen. So I'm going to start things off for us tonight and kick it to Chief here about halfway through. So to get things started on our, just a review of our core values, I'll read our mission statement to you here. One team, enhancing community livability, providing equitable community service and protection through integrity, compassion, and competence. Here is our, the structure of our department, really unchanged for the most part since last year. Again, we have our three divisions: Patrol, COP, CID, Staff Bureau, Emergency Ops, and our Professional Standards Division, all overseen by at least one captain, and then lieutenants, corporals, and officers that report to those captains. Going to spend some time tonight again talking about our recruitment and retention, doing a little bit deeper dive there. The slide here is our authorized sworn strength. Call attention to FY25. If you remember, we gave up those 6 sworn positions in 25 to stand up our Precision Policing Center. Those positions funded the non-sworn positions that we acquired and some of the software needed for our PPC. So that's why we dropped from that 115 to 109, and we're still going at 109 going into FY27. So our actual strength, how many officers we actually have, we ticked up in 2026. We're at 99 right now, so 10 down from being at full staff. Here's sworn vacancies over the years. Again, call attention to 2025. On the surface, it looks like we ticked down that year, but again, we gave up those positions, so we had less vacancies. Out of our 109 sworn staff, this is kind of how we're sitting. 85 officers are available for deployment. We have those 10 vacancies. 5 at the academy or about to go to the academy, 3 in field training, 2 in the military on military leave, 3 on parental leave, and 1 on light duty currently. And this is kind of our experience makeup of the department. So you can see our largest segment is that less than 5 years, right, 37%. And again, call attention to the over 20 years segment, our more senior officers. Just understand your command staff represents a good chunk of that as well, like half of that segment. A little bit of history on our wage. If you remember, we used to have, I believe it was 4 pay steps, and we negotiated a new contract in FY24 with our collective, or with our union. And what we did was we expanded those pay steps to 11 steps, and that allowed us to take the equivalent of an across-the-board raise and target those seniority areas where we were really lagging behind that 50th percentile target from the comp and class study. So you can see we still are using that tactic this year, going into FY27. This year it's a 4% across-the-board raise, but you'll see that the step 9, 10, 11, right, are getting those higher raises to make those senior officer positions more competitive with our competition. And happy to report that this year with this pay increase, that gets everybody across that 50th percentile we were aiming for. But do want to point out that that was a 2023 comparable goal, right? The preliminary numbers are coming in. Those agencies are outpacing us again. It looks like we are at the bottom of that, and the next one up the rung is about $2.76 more an hour than our folks. So we're going to be opening up the contract by the end of the year to renegotiate wage for FY28, FY29, and that's going to be a really important time for us to stay competitive and try to keep hitting that 50th percentile. This kind of sums up the raises for that top tier, step 11 of our pay scale, the one that was lagging behind the most, just to kind of show how we've targeted those raises to bolster that up. And again, we did meet our goal and we crossed that line. First improvement package tonight is geared towards that retention piece, right? Being a top priority at council, police department, full staffing, we kind of put our heads together and like, what's something new that, we haven't tried that we think will get a good bang for the city's buck, right? That might be able to improve our retention. And this professional development improvement package request, we think will do just that. So it's $40,000. It's going to bump into our training budget, and it's going to give us the chance to target the officers that are coming to the end of their contract, their 4-year contract with the police department, and give them some professional development opportunities, right? Can we get them to some outside training, show that we're going to invest in them, get them excited about the profession again, keep them engaged, and hope to see some retention there. And then we'll get some again, bang for our buck and a benefit from that investment, because once that officer comes back from training, obviously they're on the streets of Dubuque, better trained and in a better position to serve the community. Our hiring for last year, calendar year 25, we hired 9 new officers. This is our recruitment efforts in a slide. You can see that applicants that actually pass the test and make it to the hiring list are far fewer than the applications we receive, but those applications are trending up. Captain Baxter oversees our recruiting efforts. I think he said 13 job fairs they attended last year, and they tested 8 times. 6 traditional group tests, and then with the suspension of the civil service hiring practice, we're able to do individual testing for good candidates that we're able to pick up and hire them much faster, or at least get a job offer in their hands much faster. So he started doing that as well. Our Community Resource Officer program continues to be a great feeder program for us. I mean, it blows your mind how many CROs turn into officers. We see it year after year, and I kind of cringe to think where we'd be without this program. So again, this is a paid internship, traditionally for college-age students. They get to know us, we get to know them, and a lot of times the internship ends with a job offer. This is a little bit of a review. You would have seen this from Chief Jensen a couple of weeks ago when we did our session on annual report. But here's your calls for service for the year. Part 1 crimes ticked up a little bit, about 12, 13 calls. Crimes against property went down. So when you compare total Part 1 crimes, we're down year to year. So we've fallen from the previous years, which is a trend we certainly like to see. Our shots fired were way down last year, so we're very happy about that. 6 shots fired with criminal intent on the year. So that might be a person that's struck with, that is actually shot and hit with gunfire. That might just be shots fired in a neighborhood. But it is not any type of call that wouldn't have criminal intent behind the discharge. We track the ones that are criminal. Here's our uniform crime reporting clearance rates. And again, I think you would have seen this when Chief Jensen presented. But we're doing, again, far better than the national average. So then that begs the question, why? Why are we being successful? What are the keys there? So first and foremost, it's the people that are working for us, right? The officers that are in your neighborhoods, patrolling your streets, responding to the calls, and investigating the crime. first class. And equally important and a growing segment of our department is our non-sworn professional staff, right? Like our accountant, Miss Merriman, right? The people that support the officers every day, whether it be in the PPC, in our records division, in our front office admin. We couldn't do our job if they weren't doing their job, and they provide us with a tremendous amount of support. Cutting edge technology, so our camera infrastructure, our automated license plate readers, our new precision policing center, our records management software, and our mobile capabilities in our squad car. All those pieces of technology help us to be successful. And equally important, community involvement, engagement, and support. If we don't have a community that stands behind us, at the end of the day, we're not going to be very effective, right? So we never miss an opportunity to engage with our community. And whether that's an event that we put on, like our National Night Out, or our Kids Camp, or our Police Explorer program, or if it's an event we're invited to, we try to make them all. And we try to think of creative ways that we can continue to engage with the community. So Captain Radloff runs our Citizens Police Academy, had another very successful year, and we have about 30 more allies out there that have been through our program and support us. Just some highlights from the last year. We had another awards and recognition ceremony. Some of you attended that. We certainly appreciate that. It's a good night for us. It gives us a chance to honor our officers, whether they saved a life and they're getting the life-saving award, or meritorious conduct, distinguished service, whatever the case may be. They do good work throughout the year, and one night a year we honor them with a formal awards ceremony. Every award and recognition night comes with some type of family wellness component. This year we decided to focus on financial wellness, so we brought in Lexi Meyer, a financial advisor, that after the awards and rec night met with families and kind of talked to them through financial options, their pension, what their future might look like, type of thing. So very well received. And that leads me to the next improvement package. I'm sorry, I talked about our grant before the improvement package. Another highlight from last year was our Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act grant. So you heard me talk about that last year during budget. It was a 2-year grant, roughly $118,000. Funded a couple of things: increased training for the entire department, increased training for our peer support and our psychologists, and most importantly, it funds a wellness check-in for every sworn officer with one of our 2 psychologist partners, right? So once a year they sit down with a psychologist and talk about how they cope with things like traumatic stress, shift work, right? The stressors of law enforcement. Last year was the first year of that program. Very successful program. We've been very happy with it. This year we're already into year 2. Lieutenant Fulmer in the back of the room and the peer support team have been planning this year's training event. You can kind of see it up here on the screen. It's going to be a kind of a wellness conference / seminar. They've got several speakers coming to talk to our department and the other departments that we're going to invite to this. Again, kind of talking about traumatic stress and PTSD treatment and all those themes that are really important to us. So this leads to the improvement package. That grant is coming to an end, right? It was a 2-year grant, ends at the end of this calendar year. So I could fund those wellness checks up until that point, but then we need some funding to keep those wellness checks going until next July, right? The following fiscal year. So this is a non-recurring improvement package that $11,400 is strictly going to fund the wellness check-ins with the officers and the psychologists. And then you see me come back to you next year and ask for probably a recurring improvement package to continue to fund that program moving forward. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief.
Good evening. So our strategic plan for the police department is based upon your goal setting. So after your goal setting, we sit down and we go through our strategic plan based upon those goals. And you can see our areas of focus. Retention, which Assistant Chief Meserich talked about, things we're doing for the retention piece, very, very important. Recruitment and hiring, again, a high priority of yours and ours. Leveraging technology. You've heard me talk about force multipliers in the past. Technology gives us the force multiplier part of that. So being innovative, using the technology to the best ability, and then it also helps us with our resource allocation and how we're able to put our staffing to better use. And then training, and you heard Assistant Chief Meserich talk a little bit about that, but really focusing on succession, highly trained, even offsetting some experience gaps, because training helps with that. So you look at that leadership, high quality field training, so we have officers ready to hit the streets, and then these high risk operations, the high risk, low frequency things that happen that have big impacts on the community. So doing a lot of training there. So our current initiatives, as you see, supervisor training, One of the things you all approved is several years ago is the ability to send upper command staff to advanced training. And this is a list of that. So we do first line developmental leadership training. We do that, but the advanced executive level are intensive courses. These are the courses that last 10 weeks that require, like, for example, Northwestern School requires a project for the person attending to complete with the idea that we implement it. You know, some of the projects have been around our field training program, staffing, traffic, and we're implementing it. Now the current one, Lieutenant DeJuice that just attended that is a mentoring program. He's implementing that. So these are the three senior command schools that we've been to with that. Public safety cameras. I'd be remiss if I did not talk about it. We talked about our three areas that we are very effective. One being our people, the first one being our people that we have, the quality of officers, the public safety cameras. As you can see, the first 48 minutes, you know, you've seen the TV show, the first 48 hours and how things happen. I am not kidding. This is the first 48 minutes with the cameras we have. We're able to get on that, be accurate, be quick to respond, and do, you can see, quickly see what happened, accurately do that. You know, in a chaos, witnesses give us a lot of different things. We follow a lot of leads. If we can look at it very accurately and say, that's the lead we need to focus. Efficiently deploy our resources, because we can send everybody to a scene and the camera saying, they're not there anymore. And we got everybody here and we should be out looking out here. Victim peace of mind. This is a huge piece, I think, that gets understated. As a victim of a crime, you don't want to have to sit around and wait and see what happens over in days and weeks and months. Does this case ever get resolved? Is my case too small that it doesn't get resolved? That's huge. It's huge for victims. Solving the unsolvable. You've heard me talk about this before. We had a homicide here several years ago. We had no clues on this. The cameras followed the guy. The guy was not from here. We had no record of the guy. Changed clothes. We didn't have the cameras. We had the cameras, and we solved that crime within a couple of days and had him arrested. It could have been an unsolvable, quite frankly. Whoops, sorry. Automated license plate readers. It seems like we spent about a year talking about these at one point in time on this. You know, at the time I was frustrated with that, I'll be honest, but on it, now with the way it is, I am glad we spent the time on that. We spent the year going over this, developing a very robust ordinance and policy that goes to this. And as you're looking what the state's doing, the latest version I saw is pretty much our policy and ordinance that they're adopting or proposing to adopt. But spending the time on it to make it that, to really look at that transparency piece and that piece that will make sure that it's being used correctly was very, very important. And I thank you all for doing that and the time we spent doing it and having the very robust discussion about these at the time. As you can see, these are the locations. They're no secret. Just put that out there. We have 22 of these cameras that are on. I will say with automated license plate readers, one thing I want people to understand, it is a time and place. It reads a plate, it reads a vehicle. It doesn't read a person, it reads that. It doesn't track people, it reads it right there. That's it. What does it do? It gives us information that essentially says this person it's the vehicle's wanted, a person associated with that car is wanted, a missing person, anything in the NCIC that hits. It's no different than an officer typing the license plate in their car computer and getting a feedback on it. The only thing different is it does not give us the registration info that an officer does when they type it in. You don't have any of that info. I started to talk about this. I said the officer must track the hit. The one thing, the other piece we have, and we built this in as our kind of our checks and balances, the officer has to view it. It has to make a determination, can I act upon this before just acting upon it? It's not an automatic act upon. So an officer requires that. A big piece, and I want to point this out because we talk about successes with this. Is it worth it? Is it worth what we're doing? You know, this recurring cost we have right now is $66,000. We have that. Is it worth that? I'll give you a couple examples of this. Cases across the nation. As we know, crime does not just stay within the city limits of Dubuque. It goes all over. Drugs in Dubuque don't necessarily originate in Dubuque. One of the cases that I'm going to talk about here is a task force case, drug task force case. They get information a lot, right? That's the business. They get a lot of information. Somebody's going to North Carolina to bring back drugs. In this case, fentanyl. Officer, we don't know when they're going, when they're coming back. This is where the ALPR, the flock system, and the network helps. They put it in and realize, yep, they are. Verify that they are going to North Carolina, because we were seeing this plate hit and requesting other agencies, yep, they went through that town. And it also lets us know when they're coming back. Because quite honestly, on drug time, it can be any time. We don't, I'm going to be back at 2 o'clock. It can be 2 o'clock 3 weeks from now. We don't know when that is. Very efficiently, rather than sitting on the Julian Dubuque Ridge waiting for 3 weeks, we're able to know when this is coming. They caught this gentleman coming back. He had enough fentanyl to kill tens of thousands of people. So put this in perspective. Would it? Probably not, but it could. Fentanyl is dangerous. We all know that. And when you're talking about tens of thousands of people that this could kill, $66,000 is a pretty cheap cost, quite frankly, if we're saving one life by taking that off. Drug cases use it quite a bit on that. You've heard me talk about the ATM jackpotting cases. That is a Midwest, that's happening across the Midwest crime. It does not stay here. Again, working with our officers, our PPC, crime analysts across the state, talking to each other, using the network. We had this happen here, and they were caught in Cedar Rapids, because they were able to do this. So connecting those dots across that. Simply, and I talked about the victims of this, and in that just peace of mind. We're talking about big cases here, right? We had a gentleman that had a wallet stolen. He was helping a gentleman who actually went to a church looking for money, and they were helping him. He stole the wallet. We were able to use our cameras to see, yep, here's the car, here's the plate. We put it into the flock network. As the gentleman left town, he was caught in Freeport within an hour. $200 crime, right? But that's a crime that never would have been solved without all this. The guy's gone in the wind, and then peace of mind for the victim to have this, to say, we actually solved this for you, and able to do that and to have that happen. Because it is really, when you're talking about this, it's about balancing public safety with constitutional rights. That's what it is. We're walking that line with that, and that's where that robust policy comes into play with us. And to make sure, and having that in play puts us ahead of the game. Another current initiative, you all viewed this, came and visited the Precision Policing Center. Very, very big piece of what's happening with the camera system here, able and to pull some of these dots together. They actually did the ATM jackpotting case. That was the PPC. That's our non-sworn staff doing that. Our sworn staff's using it all the time and doing this. The efficiency of this is incredible. Force multiplier again. These are some of the positions we gave up from sworn side, but what they're doing on the backside, allowing the officers to be out on the street while they're doing the camera viewing and working that kind of stuff that took a lot of time. As one officer told me, it would have taken me 3 hours of searching to do this. We were able to get it pretty quick. Computer forensic specialist, now that the city has our cyber security specialist, we're in the process of getting that hired right now, so that'll be coming on board here real soon. Just some stats. Since May 2025, PBC's worked 322 cases themselves. The normal cases, I already talked about that. And then the real-time review. So some of that is, hey, this is going on. Yesterday, for example, I'm driving home. There's some kids fighting along the street. Sometimes they're playing, sometimes they're not. What the PPC was able to do is look at the camera and say, yeah, they were jacking around. But it looks like a fight. They're yelling, screaming. So we're able to do that. Again, and without having a big deal. Ooh, scared me.
Probably not a great room to have something like that happen in, Thanks, Chief.
That's the fire chief.
Something,
anyway.
just so everybody knows at home, something just fell down on the floor. So thank you. Thank you.
Current initiative. This is an FY26 you budgeted for our public safety software. This is includes our records management system, our CAD, or computer-aided dispatching, and also it's in conjunction with the county, and it also includes the jail management system, all these systems talking together. There's a total of a $3 million. You didn't budget that. 1.5 was ours. It's a 50-50 split with the county. We're in the process of building a very robust system. It's projected to go live this fall, not an exact date of it, but what we're seeing is that we're going to be able to pull data out a lot better than we can now, and a lot more different pieces of it. Right now, it's really cumbersome to pull data out of our system. This should be helpful with that. And the old one is going on 12 years old. So the building study, we talked about this in New Times in our space. You authorized $100,000 for a space and needs study. Requests for proposals have been submitted, and we're going to be picking a contractor here next week, actually, to do this. The 4 to 6 months is what they're telling us it will take. The building study, and this also includes fire admin offices, a little different than their space and diff study, but because of our proximity, they need office space. We'll also include that. We're looking at our current location and what that looks like with that. So you'll see some recommendations coming in FY28, potentially with this to what that looks like. Again, we left everything on the table for this for the contractors. Tell us what are options out there. Accreditation. Again, very proud of this. We are, originally accredited in 1993, the longest credit agency in the state of Iowa. We're also, another piece of this, we're what's called ILEAP, the Iowa Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. It's something that the Iowa Chiefs of Police and Iowa Sheriffs and Deputies Association support. We took, being one of the original ones, we take the lead on it. I sit on a board for that. So we're accredited at a couple different levels. CALIA is the international one. 24, we're accredited for the 10th time. 484 standards are reviewed every 4 years, but every year they look at about a quarter of those. And we have to be in compliance with them. So we have overview or oversight, third party on what we're doing, and we have to show proof of that. And this is, again, we're very proud to have this continuously happen since then. Brain health, crisis intervention team. Again, another initiative. Several years ago, we talked about this secondary responder model. This group has been in place for a couple of years now. As you can see, we have two sworn officers are part of it. Lieutenant Mike McTagg is actually a patrol lieutenant that oversees it, and then Caitlin Doyle is our civilian that's assigned to that, that's in conjunction with Foundation 2. You can look there, 2,276 actions this group took in 2025. That means, contacts with people, doing things, and the byproduct of that is keeping our patrol officers responding to the same person 10 times throughout the day. Other departments from having to respond to a person, taking some phone calls maybe off of your all's plate with some of these things. They're able to then keep, also the other part of it is some people just don't belong in jail, but that was our only alternative to that and avoiding the jail process and plugging the jail up with people that don't really need to be there. They just need help in a different light. Very, very successful. As you can look here, ain't going down. When I first came to you, it started in 2020. There was about 400 and some calls for service in the brain health realm. This is going up. Part of this number going up is because they're very good at their jobs and they're doing what they're doing, but also it's just not going away. We know that, and this is an area that is really helpful for us. School resource officers. This is in conjunction with the school district, essentially a 50-50 split on cost. We have 6. Lieutenant Deutsch, who's back here tonight, is in charge of this group, and Captain Radloff's in charge of the whole community policing side of that. As you can see, the schools that we're in, what we have here, last year, 2 years ago, the schools, or the state of Iowa said you have to put a SRO in the high school, and so that you've seen that it was specific assigned to a school. Again, another very successful, take a lot of load off patrol and dealing with things, mitigating things, proactively stopping problems before they become a problem. Really, it's about the contacts, not about charges, not about any of that. It's just making contacts, positive contacts, and it really does. And knowing the kids and knowing parents and having that, you've heard me say before, first name basis, and they're on the first name basis with kids and saying, and it does help beyond the school district or beyond the school day. So improvement package requests, here's another one. So we've talked about our events and the many events that we have here. We do have problems staffing these events. We've touched base with several nonprofits, particularly the JCs, saying, hey, if you volunteered, is there a way we could reimburse some of the volunteer, because they are nonprofit and also working for that, and help us with some of these responsibilities. Don't necessarily need a police officer to do, but it could be just, we need a body to do that. So we're asking for $5,000, and you can see the different events that we got listed here, and that's just a very, very small portion of what's going on there. But they can help monitor school or street closures, provide directions. That's a huge one, and just assist with the safety and security by just letting us know things are going on or potentially this is going to happen. Second one, police training vehicles. A couple years ago, the state of Iowa made it a mandatory requirement that we have 4 hours of driver training every year. Part of that's just normal, slow speed driving stuff, high speed driving stuff. Pursuit driving is one of the most dangerous things we do. So to have the training with it, we can use our standard fleet cars, we tear them up. And that's the thing. In our fleet cars, we need them to be up and running. We don't need cars down. We need them up and running so we can have them deployed. So we're asking for essentially keeping some of our old cars back, the $39,000, $690 in revenue that we get off of the sales of those, keeping them back so that we can outfit them and use them for our training that we have to do every year. Crime analyst intern. So as we were reviewing this budget cycle, positions that we had years and years ago, before my time, a position was created in our records department for laserfish scanning. We scanned everything. We don't have anything else to scan. That position sat there. Our crime analyst came in about a little over a year ago, doing a lot of work, realized it's a lot of work. Ironically, a year and a half ago, we had one of the colleges come to us and say, I have a data analyst program, and I have a student that's really interested in kind of criminal analytics. I was wondering if they could come as an intern. She came in. Wow, yeah, this actually works. Our crime analyst is saying, hey, it'd really be helpful if I had somebody who did true data analytics and let me do the crime analytics. We think we could do this by trading that position, which was a part-time position, to an intern position. A cost savings there, but the recurring cost of $9,000, and then helping the crime analyst so we can pull that data in a lot better way. This is just our property tax, requested property tax support. As you can see, the net property tax support of $18,893,338. The average homeowner's property tax cost for police is $295,78. And with that, any questions?
We will get to questions in a moment, but thank you very much, Chief. Really appreciate it. We got to go to public input first, so we'll do that and see if we have any this evening, and then we'll get to any questions and discussion we might have.
Good evening, Clark Slows, 2925 Burlington Street. I'm going to have nothing but nice things to say here. No problems with the police department, no problems with their budget. The only change that I'd say is give them money for the speed cameras. Upset on that. But an interesting thing, the chief has made a comment about he prefers quality over quantity of officers. And that stuck with me on that. I show up early for these meetings, and the officers who are here, covering this room during those events, you have conversations with them. Interesting conversations, dealing from traffic enforcement to taxes. I'd sit there and say they're prime examples of the quality. And I'm not saying this to get out of future traffic tickets, but if it helps. The only thing, when you pick the next chief, whoever that is, that they keep that quality over quantity in mind. And the current chief is going to be a tough act to follow. And I say thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Clark, for your comments. Please.
Leonard Dress, 541 Groveland. First, I want to tell each and every one of you, I appreciate what you do for the citizens of this city. And the stuff that they're asking for, I think that is needed. What is the dollar value for protecting the citizens of this city, endless in my eyes. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Leonard, for your comments. Anybody else? All right, nobody else here? Anybody virtually? Okay. And back to us for discussion or any questions for the chief? Yeah, Mr. Staver.
I was wondering, so the improvement package about the training funds, how are those funds different from the education and training funds that or the budget that you already have in there?
Yeah. So the training budget we have already, we account for that. A lot of that is not the professional development side because of all of our moving parts. So we have training that's constant. We have our own in-house trainers. We have recertifications and stuff like that. So we count for that pretty much down to the penny. What we didn't have is this, as we talk about the retention piece, in that newer officers in that first 4 years, they don't get to be part of a specialty unit for the most part. There's an experience thing, it's competitive. And so when we're not able to get them to a kind of a training that's an advanced training. And so we're looking at that and say, what could we do within that as a fairly low cost comparatively and bolster that training fund to give them more training that's allotted to all these other things, even, in-house training and that kind of thing. So to be able to do that, to truly set aside funds for that where it's not being allocated to our other training stuff.
Okay. Then I was kind of curious, so those two patrol cars that you're holding back, it says something about a brace or something, or?
Yeah. So you kind of up armor, like, you see our bumpers, our push bumpers, there's a little bit more bumpers to them so they don't damage up the quarter panels. So you just kind of wrap it up with,
Big bumper cars?
Yeah, really, that's kind of what it is. But it just.
Sounds like fun, kind of.
It honestly is. So.
Yes, those are the only two things I was curious about.
Ms. Weffel, go ahead.
My questions are related to FLAC, but I think you sold yourself a little short on that one. I'd recently asked for information on the success of FLAC, and just to refresh myself on our policy, where we're at with it. Not only was it the fentanyl that you discussed, but also 10 pounds of methamphetamine, 20 kilos of cocaine, ketamine, GHB, the 157 grams of fentanyl, several firearms seized during the drug cases, including an AK-47 assault rifle. So I think it's really important. Those are the things that our residents don't hear about, and I'm sure glad they don't, because we're keeping them off the streets and away from those we need to protect. And so I really feel passionate about substance use treatment, but the best treatment is to not have it available to people in our city. So my question really, I know that our policy, as you said, we really dig in on policy here, but that one, I think we really worked hard on all ends. All of you, all of us trying to educate ourselves on best practice, what will balance, as you said, our rights and our safety. So our data is anonymous data. So it's anonymous as far as being able to have someone just walk in the door and query it. You have to actually have a case number before you could even approach the FLOC system. And so as we have had more discussions in the region, I would say, about FLOC camera use and concerns related to that balance of safety as well as rights, is there anywhere, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there general things that you have seen even as best practice that we need to revisit right now or soon in the coming year with our FLOC camera policy, our ordinances? I'm just curious to take this opportunity to open that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked it, because didn't say this. So our contract is essentially up. It has an automatic renewal, but I'm going to be bringing the contract back to you because the technology has changed in 2 years, right? So there's pieces of that we need to make sure we're clear on, we're bolstered on, and we'll work with them on that. As far as the policy and stuff, we're going to have to look at what the state law does because we're going to have to align with that. We did a best practice. We'll look at that in fine-tooth comb now because now, and then we're doing the broad piece of it. We're looking at a lot of it. We got a lot of it right. But we're going to go down and get to that fine-tooth comb of it and make sure that the language is correct in that, stuff that we had intent on, that we're using it as intent, but it's not clear to somebody to pick up and read and say, oh, that didn't seem, it could be read a different way, which we all knew how it read at the time, but I get it now, because we were so deep into it at the time. We knew what we wanted out of it, but we're going to do that too. So in the next couple months, you're going to see that. That's a piece we're going to do. And again, big piece is waiting for what the state legislature does before we do any piece to see what we can do with that. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you for everyone in the department, what you do. I also appreciate that you're always here with us, and we don't try and keep you late, but we are here late quite often, and you always make sure that we also stay safe and come home to our families, so thank you.
yeah, Captain Shannon's upset when he has to go home early, so.
I heard him complain.
Yeah, Ms. Lendick.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thanks. And thanks, Chief Jensen, and to the entire police staff for all you do and keeping our residents safe and us safe as well. So I don't think we can say that enough, that's for sure. I just have words of encouragement. I really appreciate you outlining kind of the Precision Police Center and other technology that we're leveraging. And I would just say, please keep an open mind and open eye on continue to leverage technologies, because I think it's going to continue to keep coming our way, and appreciate what you've brought to the table so far and look forward to what's to come. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Resnick? Nobody else is raising their hand, and I'm thinking you're thinking about it.
Well, I thought about it, so I might as well say what I was going to
Yeah, go
ask.
for it.
And for a couple of years at least, you've mentioned that we were not to strength as far as that we were able to devote a lot of time to traffic enforcement. But this spring, now I've been driving around, and lo and behold, I've been seeing some more traffic enforcement. Are you doing more this spring?
Yes. What we did over the last year, so as long as you remember, we used to have a traffic division years ago when the staffing went, that was one of the pieces. So what we did in the last year is we have territory accountability lieutenants, so each territory that we had an extra one. So we assigned it to a traffic, as a traffic TAD, or territory accountability lieutenant. It works with projects, so trying to do that and working with our grants through the Governor Traffic Safety Bureau, other agencies. So working with the State Patrol Force Multipliers again, this is that, and really putting together some focused activity. So we're doing more traffic enforcement. I would love to do more if we could do more. I mean, that we all know this. This is a huge complaint that we all get on that. I'd love to be able to be everywhere at once and to do that. So we're trying to be really being strategic. We're using our speed signs. It was on my mind. Somebody said it. So speed signs for data to give us a better efficient use of our people. We put the signs up for a couple weeks. We're seeing what the trends are like for speeding on that street. If there is a trend, we had one recently on a street where we realized, I would have never guessed this. The time that needed to be hit was 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. I would have never guessed that on the street as a time, but that we're able to concentrate enforcement efforts at that time. So we are doing more. We're trying to do more strategic with it and leverage our partnerships that we have with other agencies.
Yeah, and I tell you that just seeing some police officers out there doing that, I'm just saying the effect on me was to be careful everywhere in the city. I mean, so you just see something like that, and instead of knowing exactly where those cameras are, and my brother just tells me he knows where they are in England, and he just rips past, once they go past him, then he goes fast, and then he slows down. And Davenport, honestly, is doing a lot of those, and it just gives me a bad feeling about Davenport. But when I see officers who are there in presence, you see that you're not hiding, right? You're there doing traffic enforcement. I respect that, and I respect the speed limit almost everywhere because I see it's important to Dubuque that, the officers are doing that type of thing. So I'd like to see officers doing traffic enforcement, but I know that you can't all the time. I'm glad we're getting to the point where we can have that kind of presence too. And you spend so much time in the positive outlook. You're visiting folks, you're going to parks, and so I think there's a really good balance that people have. That when you're out there with traffic enforcement, the tide is turned from, oh, they're trying to catch us, to they're trying to help us. They're trying to remind us that this is a particularly tricky spot in the road, and you might not know. The only thing that I have is when they're down at the bottom of a hill, and you always have to check that. But I do. I don't want a city council member picked up for speeding, especially this one, right? So, but I really appreciate that extra effort you do for traffic enforcement. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Spring.
Chief, appreciative of everything that you guys are always doing because we see it, especially in my neighborhood. And it's always a pleasure to see the officers interacting with the kids at Comiskey Park. I know I drove by and I think there was 50-some people there tonight, so I'm like, you may be needed. Hopefully not. But my question is really about the improvement package number 1, the mental health wellness checks. I understand the need for this because the stress that the staff is under is just tremendous, and I think this is very important. Chief Officer Meseritz mentioned that it will probably become a recurring deal. Can you give us an approximate ballpark of what that's going to look like in the upcoming years? Or is there any way we can talk with our insurance and see if we could make it qualify for part of our insurance? I don't know.
Yeah, so it'd be double that
Okay.
to year. So part of the grant was because there was training that went involved, and we were able to bring speakers in, but to double that. And I think that's we could have that discussion. I think we can ask the different things. I will say that it is a very, very important piece, and near and dear to my heart because I've had 2 friends leave law enforcement because of traumatic incidents over the years that I think would have died to have this. Then that would have, I truly believe, would have helped save their career with all the different pieces we have in place now. But this is a big, important one to have a true medical professional that is able to sit down and talk with them at least once a year on any topic. It is not necessarily about work. It can be anything. So, yeah. So, but I think looking at any option, the way to fund that and to keep it going, because it's so important to keep going, is very important to us.
Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr.
I
Davis.
just have one more question. It looks like the federal grants decreased from almost 250,000 down to 65,000. Is that?
The federal grants, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the CIT grant, that grant is going away. That was one of the ones that was a 2-year grant that funded that. That was a big one, a big piece to that. The mental health wellness grant is going away. These are grants that are not recurring. You can't reapply for them for the same thing. Those ones are going away. We did those grants with the intention of keeping it going. See, we realized that.
So was that kind of like a big year, and this is more of a normal year?
Yeah. So grants come when you apply for them, and you can get like the CIT grant was like a $250,000 grant. That was huge to apply for that. Never guaranteed you're going to get it. It was a huge year. Totally shocked when we get that dollar amount, actually
Right.
on it. Even the wellness grant, the $118,000, that was huge. Those are big years. This is probably more normal, but what we're doing more now is looking for grants, looking for ways to fund this, looking for all different. We're more open to that. What's out there? Let us know. Let us see what's out there, and we can use that federal funding, particularly, and we're not incurring it in the budget if we can.
Does your department looks for the grants, or is there another?
No, there's across the city. So we in the past, like Terry Goodman she'd call, say, hey, I got a grant. You should look at this. But there's different. We hear about Anderson Sansey now as he's talking to legislators. Hey, this grant's going to open up. You see it through some of our publications, or even we hear word of mouth. And it's like that grant's out there, so we start looking at that. But we're very active on looking for grants now, which I don't know if we were 20 years ago, but we definitely are now. So.
Yeah, I was just curious. It was like the federal was pulling back at the same time, or if it was just a banner year last year. So.
Yeah, knock on wood, we haven't had that, you know, where they're pulling any of our grants back. They're just expiring.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Ms. Russo?
Thanks. I'd just like to say thanks for something that I don't think we've talked about, and that's your proactive work to go out and talk to groups. So, for example, my mom's at the Rose, and she said an officer came out there and talked to them about fraud, looking for fraud, you know, how to protect yourself, and proactively keeping our citizens safe to prevent crime is so important. It's makes more sense than just reacting to crime after it's happened. So I'd like to just thank you for that work. And if you want to talk a little bit about some of the things your officers do to reach out into the community.
Yeah, and Assistant Chief Messer is talking about, we're out in the community a lot. We're any event, anything we can be, any request we have for safety. Lieutenant Luke Bach is our crime prevention. He does a lot at our community policing division. Captain Radloff runs there out and about a lot. Even just officers themselves, myself, Assistant Chief, any request we get, we rarely turn anybody down. You know, and if we turn them down, it's a conflict of interest, just to talk on whatever topic they want to talk about. You've heard me say this before. Public safety is a joint effort between the community and the police. It can't be heavy one way or the other. It has to be a joint thing. The way we do that is to be out there, talk about what we do, be transparent, let people know and answer their questions.
Well, thank you for doing that, and want you to know it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, yeah, please, Ms. Bethel.
Just one more question about the grant that is now expiring. With that money, did we do additional peer support training
Yes.
with that money, right?
Yep.
And so we're kind of carrying on what we did, but we actually used that money to do really, overusing the word strategic maybe a little bit for me tonight, but strategically training individuals who then can do peer support when there are traumatic incidences that, yes, it might be appropriate to bring a trained psychologist in, but also having the peer support component that's been so helpful. So maybe to talk a little bit about that peer support.
Yeah, it's kind of the train the trainer. It's a sustainable model, right? Rather than, okay, maybe we have funding to bring somebody in, maybe we don't. Peer support is a very successful program. We started that several years ago. Again, one of these pieces that I thought, well, we'll see how it goes. I don't know what happens with it. I see numbers. The first month of that, we had 25. Now they're astronomical. And they're doing proactive work. They have a newsletter they put out. They have a bunch of different things. We also trained our psychologists that we work with. We trained them, gave them advanced training that very specific to the first responder realm. And to have that, so that a next level of that. Our chaplains train them to a next level. So there's pieces that, again, that's the payback. This is local. We're going to have it to be able to carry on years and have our own experts in the field.
Thank you.
All right. Chief, I have one question for you. The building study that you mentioned, you said that you're going to be bringing that, so it's 4 to 6 months it's going to take. The requests for proposals are out now, and you said it's coming back in fiscal year 28 for recommendations. Are we going to hear anything before that? Can we expect something this year, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll give you a feedback on what we asked them for was give us a bunch of options.
Yep.
So we can come back and talk about the options. Dollar cents would be an FY28. I should clarify that.
Yeah,
that
good.
would be a thing we talk about if the actual funding of any of that would be an FY28, but the actual results of that we'll bring back to you all.
Yeah. Good, thank you. I'm glad to hear that,
Yep.
because I know in talking to you, talking to officers just in general, it's a big deal for, you know, the building and the physical environment that you're in and the work that you're doing. It's part of recruitment in a lot of ways. I mean, it's actually something that we need to start looking at. We've been in your building. It's old, it's jam-packed. You do a lot with a little tiny space, and I want you to know that I recognize that. I think members of the council recognize that too, so I'm glad to hear that we're moving forward with that, and I'm glad that we've budgeted for it in the past. Really glad to hear about the targeted traffic enforcement that coming back in more of a specific way. That is absolutely one of the most frequent calls that I get, is just people speeding, and they're telling me exactly where and exactly when, and they invite me to their house to sit on their porch with them and watch people speed by, and you know, I'd recognize that. It is important, and I'm glad to hear that we're having some enforcement there. Assistant Chief Messerich, you said something about the wages, and I want to make sure that I reiterate it because it's really important. You said that we were catching up. We were doing better with the most recent contract that we've approved, but now we're finding ourselves, we're in a constant race with our competition, essentially. And this goes back to recruitment again, because we can't fall behind other cities our size and other places around us in the Midwest. We have to keep up and try to do better if we can. So I want to make sure that I say that out loud for all of us, because that means that we have to think about the police officer wages going forward and making sure that we're comparing that to what the competition is doing so that we can keep up. We don't want to fall behind again. We don't want to be in that situation where we put ourselves in a hole. So it's going to take some careful work to make sure that we do it. But thank you very much for saying it out loud. I do appreciate that. Other than that, I'll just reiterate the thanks that everybody else has reiterated. Really appreciate the work that you guys do. We appreciate seeing you everywhere that I see you, whether that's here, whether it's out in the community. When people call and they need you, you're there. And we really do appreciate having the work that you're doing, and you're doing such a great job of it. You've got all the statistics in the annual report to show it. We love seeing that. So thanks for everything.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, that is the police department. So we'll move on to our second public hearing of the night, which is the fire department. So we'll let them get set up and we'll get moving again.
All right.
All right, we're ready for you.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Amy Scheller, Fire Chief. Dubuque Fire will be presenting the fiscal year 27 budget. I'd like to recognize the senior staff and department members that are here with us today. And then 2 additional recognitions, one for our finance department. We really appreciate the help that they give us not only during budget, but throughout the year. And then today's Administrative Professional Day, so I'd like to say thank you to those members for all the assistance. Jody and Pam from the fire department and all the administrative assistants throughout the city. The mission statement of the Dubuque Fire Department is to protect, assist, and educate with pride, skill, and compassion. And we link our values to our mission statement through the word pride: professionalism, responsibility, integrity, duty, and empathy. This is a bit busy slide, but I'm going to walk through it, and it's in reference to the international accredited agency. The Dubuque Fire Department is currently going through an accreditation process. We will have a site visit in May, but there are 340 internationally accredited agencies, and 7 of these are in Iowa. It represents 14% of the population that's being protected by an accredited agency. The self-assessment manual there contains 250 performance indicators and 94 core competencies. Excuse me. 2 fundamental documents that drive the fire department are community risk assessment and our strategic plan. You heard about our strategic plan last year, late in the year when we presented it to you. Excuse me. It contains our goals and objectives. Where we'll be using our strategic plan is when we do council priorities. We'll use that document to drive what some of the discussion will be and some of the needs. The strategic plan is a 5-year document, so it guides us for 5 years. And then what you have in front of you is our annual report. That's a historical document. It shows you our call volume for the year 2025. It talks about all our programs and some of the successes that they've seen. Ambulance call volume, call types. It's really a good document to drive what we've done in the past and move forward. Dubuque Fire Department is an ISO Class 2. The Insurance Service Office evaluates fire departments through its Public Protection Classification Program, assigning a rating from Class 1 at the highest level to Class 10 as minimal. The assessment focuses on 3 core areas. These are 3 of our partners in the city, 2 of our partners, including us. Communications, which is 10%. They're assessed in emergency reporting, telecommunicators, and dispatch circuits. Fire department represents 50%, or 50 points, and that's assessed on staffing, training, equipment, and response capabilities. And the water supply system from our water department, which is 40 points. And that's supply systems, hydrant sizes, types, installation, inspections, and flow testing. Dubuque is an 80.40, which classifies us as a Class 2. New faces this year include firefighters listed above. These individuals will be coming off of probation in the next month, and we do have 5 additional firefighters that are going through our fire academy now. They will be part of our staffing in June, so we're looking forward to them being added. These 5 firefighters represent an increase of 2 staffing on our suppression vehicles, so we're moving our minimum staffing from 24 to 26 once they start. Retirements in fiscal year 26 include Deputy Chief Kevin Essert, Fire Equipment Operator Chris Lawrence, and Fire Lieutenant Steve Berkeley. Oh, thank you. It represents over 85 years of experience. This is our organizational chart. It represents the division of the department as far as administration and operations. Administration represents 40-hour employees. There's 10 of those. And 56-hour employees in operations, and there's 99 of those. This graph represents the staffing progression that we've seen in the last 5 years. A point of interest is in fiscal year 22 to 23, we saw an increase of 7 operational personnel. Those were used to bring our 3rd frontline ambulance into service. So there were 2 positions for each shift in order to staff that. Fiscal year highlights for 2026 in our administrative department. The HVAC project was completed. This represented a healthy and safe community major project, so that was fantastic to complete. The firefighters in this station are enjoying really comfortable living quarters now. It was a lot to ask of them to go through winter and in summer, but it's a great project, and we're happy to have that completed. We completed and adopted the 25-30 strategic plan. We talked about that, and then the 25 annual report. And another fiscal year highlight was the electronic employee reviews. So we had been doing those paper copies, and our deputy chief was able to work with IT to get those transitioned over to electronic. It's fantastic. I get to see everyone. It comes across in the system, and then we can monitor them a lot closer. Fiscal year 26 highlights in our training division represents over 19,000 training hours, 2,200 EMS training, an emergency vehicle operator course that they implemented last year through the training division as part of its continued commitment to safety, professionalism, and operational readiness. The EVOC is a structured training program that prepares personnel to safely operate fire apparatus, ambulances, and other emergency vehicles, both during routine travel and emergency response conditions. The training includes topics such as defensive driving, intersection safety, backing procedure, and vehicle handling. They also completed an 8-week fire academy. We completed a National Fire Academy class in leadership. All of our senior staff actually did a leadership retreat and participated together in this leadership class. It was a great opportunity to come together and learn from one another. One really cool feature that was organically grown from our organization is the Lighthouse app. It's a peer support app that's actually on their phones. It includes information on the peer support team, guides, references, articles, statuses of certain initiatives, and we were really excited when our members brought that forward. Highlights for the ambulance. 2026 Silver Mission Lifeline. The American Heart Association Mission Lifeline EMS Recognition Program evaluates how effectively fire and EMS agencies deliver time-sensitive, evidence-based care for cardiac and stroke patients. The program emphasizes clinical performance, consistency, and coordination with receiving hospitals. Another successful initiative is the Health Data Exchange. Information sharing. The Dubuque Fire Department recently initiated a health data exchange program to strengthen coordination between emergency responders and healthcare partners through the secure sharing of relevant patient information. The program is designed to improve continuity of care by allowing critical medical data from emergency incidents to be more effectively transferred between paramedics, hospitals, and healthcare providers. The initiative supports faster clinical decision-making, reduces duplication of information, enhances patient outcome, and improves overall system efficiency. Our firefighter paramedics never really had an opportunity to see the outcome of a patient that they would deliver at the hospital, and now they do. That not only helps with the differential diagnosis, but I think it helps with closure as well, just to understand what happened, what they could do better, if they were in line with the protocol, or what their thoughts were on the care. We also received formal recognition as an EMS training program in our EMS division. Continuing education hours can now be applied for and credited to our firefighter paramedics directly. And the use of a simulation lab for advanced skills. This is pretty impressive. There's a trailer that actually comes out, it's from the state, and they can work through routine and very critical calls, high risk, low frequency calls such as pediatric codes. There's nurses in the trailer that assist them, and technology that assists them in their learning. You know, if you're going to practice to get better, you've got to practice to failure, and it's a better opportunity to fail in a training environment. Highlights in our suppression and operations include the replacement of truck 4. You all saw that when we brought it to council. It's a beautiful vehicle, and we're so thankful and appreciative of that resource. That's a 2025 E1 Cyclone 75-foot aerial. Our response times were improved by 30 seconds. So I'm going to let dispatch take credit for that and talk about that a little further, but that's an impressive milestone, is to improve those times by 30 seconds. We also received portable radios that we put in service as part of support in a CIP. And then we trialed Cradle Point, and I wanted to talk a little bit real quick on that. Dubuque Fire Department and the IT department implemented a Cradle Point mobile networking system to improve the reliability, speed, and security of onboard communication technology. A Cradle Point unit functions as a rugged in-vehicle router that uses cellular network and Wi-Fi to create a stable mobile internet connection for multiple devices operating inside the apparatus. It helps reduce connectivity interruptions while units are responding on the scene or communicating with hospitals and dispatch centers. The important piece here is we were losing some connection when our vehicles were in quarters for whatever reason. So IT paired with our suppression and operations division was able to find a solution, and we saw some success, a lot of success with that. So we're going to roll it out to other vehicles. The mobile data computer replacements, that was a success. Those are currently with IT being programmed, and we're looking to implement those and get them out on the vehicles here in the next month or two. And then our fireboat replacement with an ETA of May of 2026, which is right around the corner. We're excited to see this resource join our fleet. This is a 28-foot Lake Assault landing craft, 1,500 gallon per minute pump. Fiscal year 26 prevention highlights community AED, the community AED program. The department recently launched its community AED program to expand public access to life-saving automated external defibrillators throughout the city, working in partnership with the city's Parks and Recreation Department, PD, Communications, and Dispatch. The initiative places AEDs in secure, high-visible outdoor cabinets so they're available during cardiac emergencies while first responders are en route. The devices can be accessed by calling 911 at a time that the emergency dispatchers provide them an unlock code, and they can gain access to the AED. The AEDs are designed for public use and provide voice and text prompts to assist users. The department identified locations using medical response data, population density, demographics, and current AED coverage gaps. We currently have AEDs at Comiskey Park, Veterans Memorial Park, the North Flood Wall, Eagle Point Park, and the Arboretum. Future locations are going to be Jackson, Jefferson, Washington, Orange Park, and South Flood Wall. Another exciting highlight is the Explorer program. The fire department's Explorer program is a youth development initiative designed to introduce young people to careers in the fire service. It'll teach them to build leadership. It'll give them an opportunity to work with our firefighters directly, try on gear, try their hand in fire service and EMS. We know that this Explorer program is also going to be a feeder for future firefighters, so we're excited to get this initiative off the ground. It'll also help these participants better understand the expectations of public service careers and become an important part of the recruitment of these firefighters. Other successes are pre-planned software that's been implemented and community-level fire inspections. This is a fantastic slide. This represents the support of council, the budgetary support over the last 3 years. It also represents the fire department's ability to complete these projects. So in all these that are listed in 24 and 25, most of them you'll see completed. Our portable radio, we were approved with the portable radios, we completed that. Budget approval for wireless headsets, we completed that. Approval for bunk room modifications, we're in the process of completing that. So we thank you for that support. Future initiatives. This is the important tie to our strategic plan. The future initiatives are identified by using the department's updated strategic plan, the performance measures, and council priorities. We identified 5 strategic initiatives in our strategic plan, and they include strengthen workforce leadership and resiliency, modernize facilities, fleet, and technology for all hazards readiness, enhance service delivery, response, staffing, EMS capacity, and community risk reduction, expand prevention, public education, and community engagement, and strengthen communication, accountability, and regional collaboration. The 5 strategic initiatives are further divided into the objectives to accomplish in the next 5 years, and there's quite a few. There's 80 objectives that we identified. But don't worry, we have 5 years to accomplish these. We selected 36 of them for this year to focus on. I'm just going to go through a couple because I think it's important to see how the process works, how we set our strategic planning and our objectives, and then we get council support through high priority and top priority initiatives. So the 2.3.5 is a station feasibility study. It aligns with the comprehensive fire station location and facility study, which is a 2025 to 2027 top priority for the fiscal year 2027. It also has a CIP associated with it. Phase staffing towards benchmarks, fire department staffing increases. It's also a 2025-27 top priority, and also has a fiscal year 27 improvement package tied to it. Fire Explorer program, we talked about that. It aligns with management and progress, healthy and safe community. We talk about expanding our peer support and peer fitness. There's a 27 budget improvement package associated with it. It's directly aligned with what our PD partners are doing. We're following their lead, and we're implementing these important mental health assessments in partnership with a psychologist who is trained in public safety in EMS and in fire police to assist. We're excited about that initiative. Annual leadership and soft skill training. We've got 2 improvement packages associated with that. And then facility maintenance. 3 IP improvement packages and 3 CIPs that are associated with that one. Again, I can continue to go on. A lot of these initiatives have budgetary support, but a few at the bottom and a few other initiatives don't. They're just things that we're going to work on. Risk-based inspection quotas. Electronic evaluations, we've accomplished that. That was one of our initiatives. We've already accomplished it. And then annual EMS legal training. The 27 requested property tax support is $13 million, just over $13.1 million. And the average homeowner's property tax cost for the fire department is $203. Dubuque Fire Department's incident count by year. This is the busiest year, again, for the Dubuque Fire Department. We ran 8,259 calls. These were individual incidents. The graph in the red represents the vehicle movements. So there's been 15,584 vehicle responses associated with those 8,000 calls. Not every call just requires 1 vehicle. Some require 3, some require 5. So we're moving every day. Emergency medical incident trend. 6,686 EMS incidents. This represents 80% of what we do. And of these, 5,200 result in a transport to the hospital. The fiscal year 27 recommended improvement requests. We have 9 firefighter paramedic positions that are in an improvement request. This is tied to a successful SAFER grant. These 9 firefighter positions will represent an increase of an additional 3 riding positions and complete the task of minimum staffing of 3 people on every suppression vehicle. We have computer workstation for Station 4, increased staffing. We're going to need increased workstations. Annual generator maintenance. We've got all new generators at the fire stations 2 years ago, and now we need to just maintain them. Promotional assessments, these are scenario-based assessments. This aligns with our leadership initiative. Currently, we test our promoted positions in a written test and an interview. There's no tactical scenario or that hands-on kind of assessment or that problem employee. So we're going to partner these assessments with the written and the interview, and we'll have a more complete process. We talked about the Fire Explorer program. We talked about the mental health, wellness, incident command boards, employee recognition. This improvement request is tied to us improving the recognition of our employees. We don't do a very good job of that. Again, we're following the police department's lead. We'd like to provide some recognition for the great work that they're doing every year. And we also recognize that this year, coming up in September, is the 20th anniversary of September 11th. So we want, to do some kind of recognition for that event as well. Incident command training, and then some building maintenance rounds out the improvement package requests. The 27 capital improvement projects are listed, include the station expansion and relocation, outdoor warning sirens, the portable radio replacement here. You heard me say that we completed fire department's portable radio replacement. We partnered with the police department and the airport on one CIP, and so now the police department is executing and the airport is executing their portion of that CIP. You notice some engine replacements and ambulance replacements for 2027, building maintenance for all fire station. The building maintenance is going to provide our station captains who are assigned to every station. There's one station captain. They do an inspection of those stations every year, and they always have something that they need to accomplish as far as preventative maintenance, whether it's windows or caulking or paint, and so this will assist them in accomplishing that. HVAC at Fire Station 5 and 6. This is more so like mini split units that we can get in there to move from the window units to something that's a little bit more aggressive that might help balance the temperatures there better. And then future capital improvement projects, fire station expansion in fiscal year 2028. And then you see our trending vehicles that are now listed 5 years out so we can watch them march their way down the CIP. It'll help finance be able to pivot and move, to align what the budget requests are. But those are the other vehicles that are listed. Ambulance billing payer mix. We've talked about this as well. This is the unique payer mix of every community, and this is Dubuque's payer mix. Medicare 55%, Medicaid at 22%, and this is tied to the GEMT. Insurance is 12%, private pay is 10%, and workers' comp or other is listed at 2%. And the GEMT is the Ground Emergency Medical Transportation. It's a program where publicly owned ambulances receive state and federal payments for Medicaid-related EMS transport services. They cover the gap between what it costs to provide this service and what it's received from Medicaid. So you see at the top here where it shows Medicaid, typical dollars that we receive from Medicaid are approximately $114, $127 for ALS, and then $232 for ALS 2 services. The gap between what it actually costs is what they provide us. This slide shows the historical trend of our ambulance billing or cost recovery from 2023 to 2027. Between 25 and 27, we're looking to increase this cost recovery by $1.5 million. Red represents the GEMT cost recovery portion, and blue is our ambulance billing portion. Our performance measures, administration, we have several performance measures, number of students provided with ride-along and job shadow opportunities, number of career day events and presentations conducted, fire suppression first unit arrival on the scene for moderate risk emergency responses, and then EMS first unit arrival time. Our times are everything. You hear me talk about times and performance and why it's so important to get that first person on the scene. You'll hear more about our times and our performance. Particularly, one area that's interesting is the number of students provided ride-along and job shadow opportunities. When we did our interviews, we were seeing increased number of those individuals that had done a ride-along and then are interviewing for our department. We're pretty proud of that. Training performance measures are number of training hours per month, number of personnel with incident command. We're currently working on that goal. Percent of identified patients receiving a stroke exam. It's very important for us to get that exam completed so we can give our hospitals a heads up when we're coming in with one of those patients, and we've met that goal at 100%. Number of patients identified receiving a 12-lead EKG is at 90%. This is an important performance measure. Is number of cardiac arrest incidents in which bystander CPR was performed, and we're at 40%. We would really love to increase that. And adding those AEDs in the community, I believe, is going to help build that confidence and let people know that they need to take action if they see an emergency in which someone is not breathing or needs CPR. And in any emergency, really, we look for collaboration there. Number of cardiac arrest patients alive after 14 days. Dubuque Fire Department has an average of 15% to maintain cardiac survival rates above the CARE registry. The national average there is 10%. And then percent of cardiac arrest patients with return of spontaneous circulation, we call that ROSC. But when we can get circulation back or get a pulse to return, super exciting, 35%. Couple last performance measures here. Percent of structure fires controlled with a room of origin, 60%. It's important to stop the damage. The amount of times that we can stop it at the room of origin, the more favorable the contents in that structure will be. Moderate risk, effective response force. This is the total number of people that we can bring to an incident. It's important to get the first unit there, but then supplemental units need to get there as well in a particular amount of time. That's one goal that we have work to do, but it's at 14 minutes and 20 seconds. And then prevention. We track our inspections for a 3-year trend. We track our violations identified and corrected, which are important. Number of free smoke detectors installed, and then number of households receiving smoke detectors. Now, the two numbers are off because there's a couple smoke detectors that are installed at each of those locations. As far as there's 75 households, and I think that averages out to be more than a couple smoke detectors that are installed at each location. That's the budget presentation. Again, I just wanted to say thank you. It's an exciting time to be a Dubuque firefighter. It's an exciting time for our organization, and we appreciate the support, and we're really looking forward to the future.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thanks for that presentation. We'll go to the members of the public first. We have any public input this evening on the fire department budget? Please, come on up.
Leonard Dress, 541 Groveland Place. I think, and I know in my younger years, I always overlooked the fire department that, but in December of 2024, I found out what it was like to need them. And then in 25, I was choking on a piece of steak, and my wife, I felt good. I thought, okay, I'm having problems, I can't get it. So she started taking me up to the hospital. We got down to Herdix, and there was an officer, I tell her, but that, to me, they're staged there in case of emergency. And I could feel myself getting weaker and ready to pass out, so I told the wife, I said, pull in there. That officer had the ambulance coming. So, you know, I really appreciate him now. I know there's talk, a new fire station we need, but I think we need every fire station we got, plus the new one. And if there's any way possible to make that happen, I think all of us have to make it happen. And, you know, granted, there's firemen that are going to retire, fire personnel, I should say, that are going to retire, and we need to replace them. Wages, benefits, we got to stay competitive, just like with the police department, so we can get the best of the best right here in our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard, for your comments. Any other public input? All right, anything virtually? No? All right, back to us then for any discussion. Mr. Resnick.
Oh, thank you. So you mentioned, Chief, the billing payer mix, and I noticed that we're up 50% from last year as far as we are operating revenue. Is that part of what, is that all the entirety of the operating revenue is when you bill folks for, you know, Medicare and Medicaid for those ambulance services, or what is I was looking through the budget, I couldn't find the operating revenue sources.
Sam is coming to the rescue
Okay.
as well, Chief.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You couldn't see him in your peripheral there. I want to make sure you
He's
knew
a
that.
sniper. He's good, yeah. So if I understand the question, the EMS billing revenue is a major portion of our, what I like to call cost recovery, but revenue. The GEMT additionally is the source of revenue, and that's that gap payment between what Medicare Medicaid pays, and what our billing services cost. Yeah.
Well, because we're up 14 authorized FTEs, up 14, so that's something like 12%, but our costs are only up 3.3%, and it looks like it's mostly because of that increase in, I'll call that reimbursing, or they're paying, those services are paying the bills for the clients, all the Medicare and Medicaid and all of those folks that you talk to are pitching in more. Are we asking, and are we just more persistent? Or I don't know why we are, I'm happy we are, but I believe that last year, I believe the gentleman behind you was talking about a renewed emphasis in getting those operating revenues.
Absolutely. Last year we proposed, we had a desire to increase our staffing, and so we came forward with a solution, right? And one of those was to modify our billing rates, and that's exactly what you're seeing, is that modification is bringing the dollars forward to support those personnel.
Well, I think that's really important. I mean, absolutely great. I love how that budget looks. I have a question, just more for my own self, because I don't understand how this works. What are the criteria that necessitates a fire truck to respond? Oftentimes I see many emergency vehicles, many times without any sirens, but they all show up at somebody's house. And I'm thinking, why is there a fire truck here?
That's a great question, and thanks for asking. 2 responses there. One, there's not an ambulance at every fire station. So we have 6 fire stations, and we have 3 ambulances. So our fire engines and our ladder trucks are all ALS capable, advanced life support. They have trained paramedics, and they have all the equipment that they need to stabilize any type of incident that we would have. So if an engine arrives on the scene first, they're able to take action and correct a lot of things before the transport vehicle, which is the ambulance, gets there. The other part is we look at what it takes to handle various calls. And a simple fall or just a citizen assist doesn't take a lot of people, but a cardiac arrest takes a lot of people. We identify how many people it would take to do all the interventions, and that's our tasking. And so a fire engine would bring currently, 2 people, and an ambulance would bring 2. Our shift commander would bring an additional 2. So if we determine a cardiac arrest type call or a stroke type call needs those, that number of people, that's the response plan. So,
I see.
Yep.
So we're not sending a fire truck just in case. There are definite criteria that need to be fulfilled, and it's mandated. My question was, is it mandated, recommended, or optional? And it sounds like this is something that needs to be done.
Correct.
Yeah. And my final question is, as we look at the studies and our newer structures, residential and commercial, are newer structures more fire resistant?
No, so we have a conversation, it's called legacy construction, and those are actually, from a firefighter perspective, safer. They take longer to burn, natural woods. Today's construction, fiberboard, a lot of glues, a lot of plastics. We used to be able to speak in terms of fire would grow every minute, and now it's fire grows or doubles every minute. Now fire just doubles and triples by the second in some of these. I don't know if you've seen some of the new construction fires. There's fire departments that'll actually do those burns side by side where they have legacy or traditional construction, dimensional lumber that's properly sized versus the newer construction techniques that they're using today are just making it a lot more dangerous. So that 60% metric that we use to make sure that we stop the fire in the room of origin weighs heavier today than it did back 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, I read these stories about the Great Chicago Fire and the Great London Fire, and all the laws changed. Now we're going to have brick and stone and make it less, prone to fire. And it's kind of head scratching about why we can't, make commercial establishments and residential establishments more, less fire prone. And that's, I guess, is that a frustration to you? It seems like you were speaking with some frustration. I just don't understand why we're still okay with fire-prone residences.
Yeah, just from the construction standpoint and what we've known from the past 20 years to where they're coming, obviously individuals that build buildings are going to make it more economic to build them and use those lightweight construction materials. They're all appropriate for the code. It's just it's something that we're mindful of. When we size up a building, there are many factors that we look at when we arrive on the scene. Construction is one of them.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just to add on to that quick, Chief, doesn't that speak to the importance of smoke alarms and sprinkler systems in commercial buildings or even residential buildings?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sprite.
Actually, I was going to kind of pivot off of Mr. Resnick, thinking of more to the future of how folks are getting hybrid vehicles or fully electric vehicles. The city is going to be acquiring some fully electric vehicles. Have you guys been starting to look into what that's going to take to put out one of those vehicles if it lights on fire? I've heard for an electric vehicle, the fire departments have to almost keep just pouring water on the vehicle for up to an hour or 2 or even 6. So.
Yes, there's definitely tactics associated with those vehicles. The training division, in fact, identified that as a high risk and actually brought in some specific training to those lithium ion, not only the lithium ion batteries, but the the electric vehicles. The thing with that is you have to weigh risk against, the benefits and the risk. So if you pour gallons of water on something, now you have a runoff hazard, right? Now you have material that is running toward our waterways. And so the policies and procedures are continually being communicated and developed on that. Texas is a leader, TEEX is a leader in trying to identify policies. And so when we attend these conferences and they talk about the risks associated and policies that are being developed, we like to grab those and bring them back to the Dubuque Fire Department and implement them. But yeah, it's a high risk, and it was identified in our strategic plan as a concern, like one of those threats. When we talked about the threats that we listed, that was one of the items that we identified.
Yeah, the same would be for solar as well.
Yeah,
Folks
correct.
putting solar on their homes, their buildings. What is that assessment or risk to your department if you now have all this potential debris collapsing upon you? So.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Roussel.
Thank you. One thing that I hear a lot from residents is that they want our city to be more efficient, more effective with our resources. And the many things that you mentioned about working with IT to find ways to be more effective in what you do was really impressive, and I think it's what our citizens want. And my question is regarding the last item on your slide that you had talked about smoke detectors. Could you kind of remind us what the program is? Is there a program where people can get a smoke detector, and how does that work?
Yes, so that's run through our prevention division. Our Assistant Fire Marshal Paulson will actually take calls and requests to install the smoke detectors, go out to the location. It's simply calling the fire department, making that request. Now, it's not for anyone who is a landlord or renting. It's for individuals who are residing.
But anyone could call if you're interested in, is there income guidelines or anything?
I don't believe.
Hard question.
No, I don't believe there's income guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Ms. Wethel.
Just on page 10 of the report you shared with us, you can make a few hypotheses about where we're going to find information on where firehouses should be. it's really interesting that, first of all, we need to collect this data, but then when we look at just sheer number, the times matter too. So it's not just the number, but trying to figure out, so people who are kind of questioning if we need a study, I guess that's where I'm going here.
Yep.
We can look at these and we can see how many incidences, both emergency and overall incidences, each house is serving. But that doesn't take into effect necessarily call times, which I think it sounds like is a really important piece of what we're going to decide. Am I
Yes.
right on that?
You're spot on.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that you're right, this is a kudos to dispatch, but I'm sure it was a joint effort, so I want your opinion on what it means. In the data that you provided us, gosh, what page was it? I guess it's page 13. So the all emergency incidences, dispatch in 2022 was 2 minutes, 32 seconds. The overall total time for the entire incident was 1 minute, 47 seconds. I'm sorry, for dispatch. So dispatch dropped 44 seconds, 22 to 25. Overall time dropped 50 seconds. So we shaved 6 more seconds off. But 44 of those seconds were dispatch? That's amazing, guys. That's fascinating to me. I want to know why. And then the EMS incidences, the dispatch time, 2 minutes, 33 seconds, down to 1 minute, 18 seconds. That's 75 seconds. That's amazing. And then another 2 seconds, with total time. So whatever dispatch is doing, I want to know what it is and how we became so much more efficient, because it sounds like that's a really integral piece of our call time and response. And so I'm fascinated. I want to know what it is.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. So the important piece for me, before we would make a recommendation, is that we gave a valiant effort to improving our times. Could you imagine if I made a proposal last year to say we should put our station here and here, and then we improved our response by 10% almost, 10%, and it may shift that model slightly. So that's what the Dark Horse software did for us, is it said, you need to look at your times. They built a filter that showed improvement of 10, 20, and 30 seconds. So they, in a sense, challenged us by not building a 40-second one, right? And so we worked with dispatch. We talked about processes. The dispatchers are an extremely talented group, and they just needed a little bit of space. And I'm going to let the dispatch manager talk more about that because it's her team, but we are so very thankful for that improvement. And now that we locked it in for a year, we are adjusting our sites and making a small modification in order to move forward. The station location and facilities study, right? And I know that word, frustrates some people. 13% of that is going to validate our data, 13% of the total funding, and the other 87% is going to look at our stations. Because if we're going to invest in stations, in fire stations that are going to be moved, we're going to want to hold those dollars up or combined, or, there's a multitude of things that could occur here. We're aligning perfectly, and we appreciate that opportunity to do that final, just small check and confirmation. But we're excited again, because I think this is going to break loose, and we're going to be moving forward pretty aggressively here.
Thank you.
Mr. Leindecker first, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And thanks, Chief Scheller, and to all the fire staff for all you do for our community. It's greatly appreciated. Question on what is the longer term plan for the new FTs once the SAFER grant funding phases out? Assuming it will phase out, I assume. But what?
Yep. Those would be part of the city's responsibility.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we can provide you the memo from late last year where it explains the funding plan, I guess I'll call it. So initially, these increased fees, there's more money coming in than is needed for the positions. So we plan on banking the money. And then as the SAFER grant runs out, then our plan was to use some of those one-time dollars to ease the full cost of the firefighters into the city budget over a couple of years. I don't remember off the top of my head the number of years and the number of the amount of money that we had banked over that period of time. But then eventually they'll all be just in the property taxes.
They'll be absorbed. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that we're going to be able to bank some of those funds. Going back to the GMT revenues, if that, and the EMS, if that was to decline, I assume we would absorb it somehow, some way in property tax as well? Is that kind of what the strategy would have to be, I assume? Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you. That's all I had. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Mr. Staver, did you have anything before I go to Mr. Resnick?
Yeah. I obviously wanted to thank you guys too for everything you do. I've been in a couple of incidents in the last, 6 months where you guys were called, and I was blown away how fast you guys get there. It didn't even seem possible. So yeah, congratulations. I mean, that's incredible. I'm looking how you guys have are tracking a lot of different data here, and for like actual structure fires. I see fire incidents. Do you I know you track it, but am I missing it somewhere where you have like homes or businesses that actually were on fire? Is that somewhere in this data that I'm
No, we don't have them listed in the document, but we do reporting. Every fire department is required to do the state and federal reporting on our incidents, and it includes the addresses, the damage, the loss, actions taken, narratives.
And is that number trending down?
The number of structure fires, I think they're pretty consistent. I do have that data here, but I'd have to pull it up. Hang on.
I'm just curious of all the preventive, the smoke alarms, all the things we're doing. Is that bearing fruit, or is there, or what is the number one thing that helps get the fire reported and put out in time so we don't lose the fire? Or
Yeah, we do trend that very closely, and a lot of the fires that start are cooking-related fires.
Mm-hmm. You can get that in a follow-up. You don't have to do it on the spot.
Okay, all right, I do have it
don't worry
here.
about that.
I knew I needed it. Okay, yeah, I'll get it to you.
Yeah,
I don't want to give you an inaccurate number, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And I think, it's really interesting, this talk about the new products, because that's something I never really considered. The fumes off of, most of the homes are covered in, vinyl siding, which is plastic, obviously. The roofs went from, wood shakes to asphalt. I mean, all this stuff burns hotter. It, has toxic fumes that come off it. So yeah, you'd think things would be getting safer, but I have to imagine they are getting safer in the sense that we have a better way of reporting these. You're getting there faster, so at the end of the day, we're having probably a lot less full loss fires or fires that get out of control like we used to. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think
The dollars lost to the dollars saved is unreal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get you that data set as
Okay.
well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. A few years ago, we were looking for spots for police substations, just a room here and there. We had one in the library, and some cities do have, they share facilities, and maybe a substation in a neighborhood or a new fire station. And I don't know if that's being thought of, but it would be nice to have some that kind of agreement for safety and efficiency. But I don't know the newest trends in that, and I didn't know if they need to be separate, or it would be nice to have a new room, a room and a half for a substation if it's needed. Of course, you'd have to, speak with the police chief and others, depending on, but it's nice to have that outreach wherever it's going to be. It might be nice to have a little consideration about that as well. I don't know if that's part of the study, or if you can suggest it, or council wants to suggest it, or the police department want to suggest it, but is that part of the overall scope of this?
That's a great point, and I do agree that that's common in some fire station construction. There's a lot of things that you can do with fire station construction. I've seen community rooms. I've seen playgrounds, off in the distance from a fire station location. That would be in that construction phase, and when we start to determine the cost of the station and what we want to build in that station. But yes, absolutely, it would be a consideration.
So it's common to consider that?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Saber.
I guess on that, are communities adding just like not necessarily a firehouse, but an ambulance house to fill gaps where it seems like there's a lot more medical calls versus fire calls now?
Yep.
Where you would just have 2 ambulances that would, maybe fill a gap where we just have fire trucks now?
Yeah, so the 6 stations that we have now, 3 of them do have a fire suppression vehicle and an ambulance. We are trending that way. 80% of our calls are EMS, and so most likely that would be an additional ambulance to be placed in that station.
But I'm saying, a station that doesn't have a fire truck at all, is that something people are doing or not?
Yeah, that would be a consideration. Obviously, we want fire protection in that area as well. And the force multiplier really for us is that the fire engine is the Swiss Army knife. It can do everything, including stabilize a patient before a transport vehicle is there. But
it can't transport a person.
It can't, but it can still do everything. And you need to stabilize them anyway. You're going to be on the scene for 15, 20 minutes, maybe less if it's a stroke or urgent. But yeah, those are considerations, a very good point, and we will watch that very closely. And I do have your fire data too.
Okay.
I just found it.
Because you have the data of the origin of the calls already, right? So predominantly where the most calls are coming from, what areas of town,
Yep.
the addresses, everything, right?
The historic data,
Yeah.
we plotted out on a map. That's that advanced technology that we use. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. The call types, the risk, yeah.
Yeah.
And we are trending upward, 101 structure fires in 2024. Actually fires, my apology, 101 fires, and 122 in 2025. Building fires were 21 and building in 24, and building fires were 30 in 2025. So we are trending upward, and we'll look at additional initiatives because we really need to be mindful of how to reduce those.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like 10-year spans, not, one year to the next is, a pretty small
Gotcha.
snapshot. But, yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mike.
So I do have a answer for Councilmembers Landecker's question. So on page 60 of the document, we do have that memo that I remembered from last year in the book. So it shows that we will have expended all the accumulated revenues by FY32. So that year, $606,000 of the cost will come onto the property taxes. And then the next year, FY33, the full cost would be on. And so that's $910,000.
Excellent.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, great discussion as always. Everything fire department. So thank you very much, Chief. I do have one question for you. So the timeline one more time on this expansion and relocation potential of stations. Help me out to understand what that timeline is for this next year.
Yep, we submitted, or we sent out for the RFP. We've received those. We've awarded a vendor. We're working with the consultant. September, October, we're about 30 days. We discussed about 30 days being behind, but we're going to try to make that up. So look for something in September, October. I should have made that a little bit shorter, I'm sorry. September, October.
Right. No, I actually appreciated the full explanation. And I know we just asked you this question not long ago, so I appreciate you repeating it, but just for the sake of this public hearing, so thank you for that. I also just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated you putting the, you had a slide on here about the various different things we've done for improvement packages over the last 3 years. And you know, I think what it shows is that we really are trying to make some investments, and we're doing it, I think, you know, maybe I think the argument could be, are we doing it as fast as we can or should be doing? But we are making very incremental and very strong improvements, I think, in the fire department and doing a lot. So I'm glad that we've been doing that. I think it's been a focus of the city council for a while. It remains a focus. Now we have a couple new members here, and I really appreciate that, because I think that we're really working to try to make sure that next is it's the people and the places. We've got a lot of equipment, a lot of things we've done. We've done some of the things for the places like HVAC. We've done some things that are making it better for your EMTs and firefighters that are doing the job every day. But we need more people, and we need to make sure that our stations are located in the right place to be able to do the job right and have those response times where they need to be. So I'm really glad that we're moving it forward. And I feel good about the SAFER grant. We will see how that goes, and then we will reevaluate if needed. And I think we're all on the same page here from what I can tell, that we need more firefighters, and we're going to keep working at it. So I'm glad that we're in that place.
Yep, we appreciate the support.
Yeah, well, thanks for the work y'all do. We really do appreciate that work, and it is. I don't know if everybody at the table's had an opportunity to give you a call at times and get you to respond to us, but I have in the past, and it was actually when my kids were very young. There was a moment that we needed you, and we needed you fast, and you were there, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It's something we still remember. So, thank you for everything that you do every day.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay. I lost my page. Number 3 is emergency management. So emergency management coming up next. We'll get switched over here. We are ready when you are.
Okay. Arrows.
And pull that mic up a little bit, Tom, so it's pointed right at you. There you go.
Am I supposed to see something up there?
It'll kick back on here. There it goes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Tom Berger. I'm the coordinator for the Dubuque County Emergency Management Agency. So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to present for the Emergency Management Commission for our budget request for FY27. Mission statement, again, the key words on that is partnerships and collaboration to build resiliency for the communities. Being a small department, I really rely on our other public safety partners to be able to fulfill the duties and carry out all the requirements for the local Emergency Management Commission, which is set up in Chapter 29C of the Iowa Code. So the commission that I work for is the mayor of each community or their designee, which Fire Chief Scheller serves for the city of Dubuque. And then we have the Dubuque County Board of Supervisor, Chairperson Harley Potoff, and the Dubuque County Sheriff. So with the designees for our budget approval, when we have that out in February, we have to have elected officials at that. So thanks, Mayor, for attending that, along with many of the other mayors or council people from the county. So with us having 21 cities, which is the most in the state of Iowa, we also have the largest emergency management commission in the state. So that's a little tidbit of information on the commission. FY26 highlights we really exceeded our exercise requirements. We participated in 7 tabletop exercises, and and a regional functional exercise. One thing we did, we've been planning for the past 3 years, working with the state of Illinois, state of Wisconsin, state of Iowa, and then our local county partners around the area to do a communications drill. That was held last December out at the Fire Training Center. And it really was a good exercise. Some of us are on different radio systems, and how the PSAPs, the 911 centers, can get together and make sure that we have communications for an event on the river, or with mutual aid going across state lines. Sometimes the radio communications can be somewhat of an issue for us. So that drill really helped plan things in advance before it's actually needed. So that was one, and also another one that I wanted to point out. Our statewide COAD or LTR exercise, so that stands for Community Organizations Active in Disaster, and our long-term recovery exercise. So the state has been doing an exercise with us that we participate with other COADs and long-term recovery committees from different areas of the state to respond to an event and how we can help. And that really pulls in our non-governmental entities. Our local COAD is operated by the Community Foundation Greater Dubuque, and it's co-chaired with the United Way. So during a disaster, I mean, obviously government can't respond and bring everybody back to where they were before the event. So we rely on our non-governmental agencies and the volunteer agencies to provide some of that assistance to the citizens, the Red Crosses and the Salvation Armies. And we meet quarterly up at the Archdiocese with Catholic Charities is another important one. But all these organizations come together, and what happens then after a disaster, we'll pull this group together and, give them some of the needs that we are currently not able to respond to, or they will volunteer. So this organization might say, hey, we have capabilities of a food pantry, we can go down in that area. So it kind of brings everybody together, so we don't have 6 different organizations out there trying to get bottled water for a disaster. Keeps everybody on the same page. So that group is really, really important in our response and recovery from the disasters. The city, we also had a city ice storm EOC exercise with the preparedness committee that over the past year as well. Planning assisted with the command and coordination for the Velocity Festival out at the Field of Dreams last year for 2 days. This year it'll be a 3-day event. So bringing that many people in to the area. We also work with the National Weather Service. We had a meteorologist on site there. The weather was beautiful, so hopefully that'll stay the same way this year. So that makes it a lot easier to breathe when we don't have to deal with storms or the high heat with that many people. Fiscal 26 highlights also that just shows, so we had 9 thunderstorm warnings in 2025. So those are days that we had actual severe weather. 2 confirmed EF1 tornadoes last year, as well as 2 flash flood warnings. So this year is already set to, it's compared to last year, where we're at this year, it's almost tripled in the amount of warnings that have been issued for Iowa already this year. So it's starting out to be a pretty busy year so far. We exceeded a state training, exercise, and planning requirements, as well as completed our update of our hazard analysis and risk assessment plan. That tells us what hazards we have, which ones are high priority, and it drives our planning, training, and exercise components from the comprehensive emergency management plan. Future initiatives, planning and prepare for the events at the Field of Dreams with Major League Baseball coming back. We obviously have Ragbri coming through this year, which will be in Dubuque County twice if you consider the overnight at the city of Dyersville as well as finishing up here in the city of Dubuque. Planning is well underway for that. The continue work with the fire department, public works, and Raycom to finish out the upgrades and updates to the outdoor warning siren this year through your capital improvement plan that Chief Scheller talked about. We were able to replace a full siren site out on JFK that was giving the public works staff some issues. So that problem child has been taken care of for us, as well as having other parts that the local public works folks are able to fix for us, or count on Raycom for it as well. And also continuing our National Incident Management System and Incident Command Training, which is tied very closely with any federal grants that we receive for the area for preparedness grants. Continuing to coordinate our response to severe weather events, sharing out that information, coordinating that through the EOC, the response with our response partners, police, fire, EMS. Also continuing working with the schools on the safety assessment and radio procedures that tie into the 911 PSAP, and meet the grant requirements for the local emergency planning committee, and the emergency management agency, which brings in funding again through FEMA, through the federal through federal programs that we can pass down to mainly use for planning and training. And then some local grant administration that we have here locally through the state allows us EMS grants that's coordinated through my office that pays for some of the initial EMT training for some of the volunteer services, as well as our annual winter EMS series that allows any basic EMTs, if they go to them, we sponsor training once a month, and then they're able to get all their recertification requirements by attending them trainings over the 2-year period. Also, we have a committee of county department heads, a budget director, looking at the 911 center transition. A lot of the 911 centers in the state are funded through emergency management or tied closely with Emergency Management Commission. So we're looking to investigate the feasibility of that to see what's best for the citizens of Dubuque County and how that'll best serve with the new PSAPs. So we're gathering different informations. There's 99 counties in Iowa, and there's a lot of different ways that are set up in each county. So we're looking to pull all their information, talk to different people, and see what works, what doesn't work, and hopefully have an idea how we can move into the future with that. Alert Iowa is promote that sign up. That's how we notify people. That's the different ways you can do it there with the QR code or the text, or you can go online and do it. On the bottom left there, those are signs that we implemented last year. So for like the Velocity concert out at the Field of Dreams, we had them all over. So people could text that, and then if something would have happened that day or during that event, we could send them information. And then after 2 days after, or the day after the concert is over, then we clear the database and pick up the signs, and we can take them somewhere else. So for different events, if we have a high concentration of people from not in the area that really wouldn't know, a lot of people don't understand, if they're from out of state, wouldn't know what county they're in, especially like out at the Field of Dreams where it's close to Delaware County. So if a warning, it just allows us to get direct information to those who want it and sign up for it. Our requested property tax support is there. I'm showing the $1.98 for the average homeowner's property tax cost for emergency management. So our revenue funding is, we do receive a federal emergency management performance grant from the FEMA, which is $39,000 that's passed through from the state of Iowa. And then our local support is split 60% city, 40% county. So our request is $126,000 from the city of Dubuque, as well as $84,000 from Dubuque County. So our remaining balance, we try to get to that 20% less the hazardous materials response. So in my budget, I have $200,000 revenue and a $200,000 expense for hazardous materials calls in the county for reimbursements. So if we have an event and we have the Dubuque Fire Hazmat team there, the local fire department, sheriff's office, state patrol, any responders that would respond to that, I would collect all their data for billing and then bill the responsible party. So if we don't have any calls, then we don't use that money, but it's there for spending authority, so we don't have to call back that whole elected group of the commission to amend the budget. So we take that off, and then 20% of the regular expenses are what we use for an ending balance, which includes our reserve funds for, since I'm not part of the city and not part of the county, we got to have a separate fund for vehicle replacement, computer, and then some building maintenance out at the training center. Obviously impacts to public safety, the ICS training and the National Incident Management training that we do, as well as mutual aid agreements. Our emergency notification and alert system that we use to notify the public ties into the Alert Iowa, ties into the Smart 911 program, do our planning, training, and exercise, and then obviously support for our the Emergency Operations Center support for our local public safety agencies. We got through last year without a presidential declaration, but that just kind of shows you how many disasters they had from 65 to 98. There was a total of 8 disasters, and since 99 we've had 12 presidentially declared disasters. So things are, it is busy, mainly with the floods. So kudos to you folks and previous councils for obviously the B branch. Really, the flood mitigation program for that really helped with the flooding in downtown. So those early floods were for that area, as well as widespread across the county. And then that just shows some of the dollar amount that came into public assistance damages. So this is not for individuals, but this is what local governments were able to get back because our plans are compliant. We do the training, we meet the requirements of the federal government for the EMPG. Performance measures are showed there, and our goals have been met with basically the planning, training, and exercise, and submitting everything through the state Homeland Security. With that, I will answer any questions that you have.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Tom. We will go to members of the public first. We have any public input on the emergency management budget at all? Not seeing any here. Do we have any virtually? No. No? All right. Back to us then for discussion. Well, you've been busy, Tom.
Yeah, it's
sure heard your name or your voice on the radio a lot lately. It's been a busy spring for you.
Yeah, it's starting out pretty busy. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being there for sure. I mean, the work that you do is incredibly important. You are, like you said, small team, mostly you, right? But small team, and it's important that you're coordinating everybody across the county, and I think you do a great job of it. So I'll just start with that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or discussion? Tom, yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Mayor, yes, I was just commenting earlier about, I'm surprised that these television stations have these storm chasers who go running after the storm where we're all sheltering in place, right? Do we have, I know that you do train some people to be on the lookout for certain aspects of the sky and to report what they do. And those are volunteers, right?
Yeah, mostly our storm spotters that we have contact with are either volunteer firefighters. Law enforcement does a lot. They're out and about anyway. So,
Sure.
Like last week, the sheriff was in the EOC, and he kind of moved the people towards to watch where the storm was coming through, where they could do so safely. We do the spotter training. This year they did it all virtual, so everybody could do it online. But that's one of the beauties of our radio system that we have. When it was designed, we can go to Commons 1, so as that storm comes across, our volunteer fire departments from Worthington, Dyersville, New Vienna, Cascade, they'll go out to their areas, or a lot of them live in the rural area now, so that's even better rather than having an expensive fire truck sitting up on the hill and chances to get hail. But also if somebody has a radio, that they can get back to us with the information, and if they have to duck into their basement, then they're able to do it. So that's really a better way of spotting storms than we've had in the past. But
Sure, but you have that network that you've developed, so you don't chase storms, but are you in partnership with any of the other weather folks that?
We have the ham operators that report information into us and the Weather Service. When we get those reports from our people, then we'll notify we're in constant contact with the National Weather Service. We don't really have much interaction with the ones that are going around and putting it on the social media sites, but we watch that because sometimes they're valuable information if we can validate it. So.
Great, well, and was just at a concert at Loris, and beep, 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 everybody's phone during the concert went off. And it's like, we know there's a situation, and we moved.
Right. Yeah, it was. That's part of the alert system. Is really helpful now with the cell phones. I mean, especially in Loris, you're probably not going to hear one of the outdoor warning sirens, that type of construction. So again, those are for outdoor warning sirens, or for outdoor warning only. We rely on other means for the weather radios and such for indoor.
Well, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
So we're here to talk about budgets, so I feel like this is kind of a good time to bring this up. As we have regionalized our EMS and 911 service as far as dispatch and response, I've just been reading about other counties in the state kind of regionalizing the same way, and then looking at funding mechanisms and scenarios for that, such as like an EMA process. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just curious if that's something that, and now might be premature to talk about that, but I think as we think about the future of fire service and emergency service, that's something that we need to really wrap our heads around earlier than later.
Right, and we're the 911 center and the PSAP right now is not regionalized, but we're in a position to do so. There's a lot of talk about regionalization, just like all the local governments are running into the same thing. You're having staffing issues, trying to find people to work it, as well as the funding of it. So we in Dubuque County with the new 911 center are in a great position if other counties want to approach us, as far as we've been reaching out to the other communications, the counties. I know that at the county level, they've had conversations about regionalization, we have this system. And now with the technology the way it is, actually right now Clayton County is part of the same radio system that we are. So they tie into the state network through the tower at Balltown. That gives them a link to the whole Raycom network, the SARA network we call it, which is a shared area radio agreement. So the technology is, improved by leaps and bounds in the last 20 years to make that possible. So.
And sorry, yes, I know we're combining services, but not regionalized, but looking at if we could offer that to neighboring areas. It looked like maybe Jackson County, now they're different because they have their own county hospital, but.
Yeah, they're actually on the state system.
Okay.
The state radio system, when I'm talking, as far as the EMS, I'm not sure about how much service sharing goes on. We're, as far as that, like that EMS grant that I mentioned, that comes through our region 6A. So there's different regions that we collaborate with and such. But as far as service sharing on the EMS side, I'm not sure if there's a lot of that there. There's some of the counties did the essential EMS services bond, where they make it an essential service, because right now EMS isn't an essential. By state, for everybody, it's not an essential service unless the Board of Supervisors pass a resolution to do so. And then you can go to the voters for an EMS tax levy, which would come in and help on the ambulance and the emergency medical services side of things.
And it sounds like that's maybe what Jackson County is looking into.
Right. I know Jones County did that a couple years ago as well. So.
Okay. Thank you.
But that's not really tied directly with the, there's EMA, EMS, and all the acronyms, which are very confusing to a lot of people and to us sometimes as well.
Thank you.
All right. Any others? Yeah, Mr. Staber.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So without this department, we wouldn't be able to access this, looks like around 20 million in the last 25 years for public assistance. So
not so much on the preparedness grants through FEMA. So like your hazard mitigation grants. So let's just take the B branch, because that's probably one of the biggest ones in the state. If we didn't have the valid plans, the FEMA certified plans, then in our hazard mitigation plan is one that all the communities participate in that we did a couple years ago. Those projects have to be identified in that hazard mitigation plan. And if they're not in there, I mean, obviously you can amend it as something comes up, but that's what makes you eligible for them federal pass-through dollars to the state. So,
okay.
And it's more the preparedness grant, the SAFER grant, the FIRE Act grant. Those are all, there's a portion in them. If we don't have a comprehensive emergency management plan, then they wouldn't be eligible.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, Tom, thanks a lot for the information, and thanks for all the work that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on to number 4 for the evening, Emergency Communications Department.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jessica George Rethwish, Director of Emergency Communications here in Dubuque. I do want to acknowledge that I do have my 4 lead dispatchers with me. This is out of the norm for us. Usually we're like second in line, so I got to get these guys home to bed. Marty Benda, Caitlin McDade, Michelle Jensrick, and then Jason Cox. We're going to start off with our mission statement. It's the same that it has been for several years. Ensure the appropriate response is dispatched that meets or exceeds the expectations and needs of the public that is requesting service through effective and efficient dispatching of emergency personnel to the scene. We have 3 new dispatchers. All 3 of them were hired the end of October 25, one day apart from each other, all filling full-time positions. A little breakdown of our leadership. Again, it's the 4 leads. We work 4 different shifts, so I do have a lead that does work each shift. And then this just gives you a list of our full-time staff. We have 1 full-time opening, but we have a letter up at HR right now waiting for approval to fill that, so then all of our full-time slots will be filled. We do have 1 PRN. She was full-time and dropped down to part-time PRN. And then we have our records clerk who works Monday through Friday, doing a lot of our warrant entry, no contact orders, a lot of the paperwork to take that stress off of the dispatchers. Although she's on vacation this week, so the dispatchers are feeling how much they do love having the clerk there. A couple weeks ago, we had a training session. Obviously, with the department as small as we are, it's extremely hard to get all of my staff together for a picture. So we did 2 separate staff meetings along with a training with the Riverview Center, and while I had everyone there, I snapped a picture. And then a little note up in the corner, our Amy Amberg, 23 years of service, retired March 13th. So we had a going away party and celebration for her as well. A couple of our highlights. 1, we moved to the new Emergency Communication Center, which is absolutely beautiful. We absolutely love every part of it. The dispatchers have had an increased use of Rapid SOS, which is a free system to us, a free program that when a 911 call comes in, Rapid SOS will actively live track it on a map. So if they're driving down Highway 20, it pings every so many seconds to where that call is. So if the caller 1 doesn't know where they are, dispatch can easily revert back to that program to check. If they're in a residence and they don't really leave the area, but the ping is moving around, so you can tell sometimes if they're walking inside or outside. And then they've also had a increased use of the what 3 words. We strongly encouraged all of our county park patrol, county deputies, state patrol, a lot of our county volunteer fire departments have also utilized this. It's also a free app that anyone can put on their phone. And for the whole entire world, every pretty much like 10-foot by 10-foot square has its own 3 words assigned to it. So this is a program that we have used several times when we've had boaters missing on the river who didn't know where they were, hikers at the Mines of Spain, just scenarios that don't really have an exact address, but we need to get emergency response to them. This What 3 Words app has really come in handy. We also, with everything happening with Ragbri, when we had the concerts out at the Field of Dreams, this is also something that we strongly encourage the responders to download, that if they needed to call for help, they just give you the 3 words, you plug it into the map, and it shows you exactly where they're at. They also are still using the Prepared 911. That is, we have currently the free version, which allows text conversations, live video from the callers. It only gives you the video. It does not give you the audio, so you have to match the video up with the audio on the phone as you're talking to them. That also translates several languages. We did get the approval last year to get the paid version. We are moving forward with that. I did not realize it at the time, but we are the first in the state of Iowa to sign up for this. So we are working out a lot of bugs in the system before we technically go live with the paid version. But that is also, it brings a whole lot of more with it. It does the translation, it does transcripts of the call. Dispatchers can see right on their screen what the caller's saying to them, what they're saying to the caller. Everything is right there in front of them with the paid version. For The highlights here, they used it 3,043 times, and of that, 258 media files were collected. So that is the video, live video from the callers, pictures that they might have sent in, and those pictures and videos then can be saved and passed on to law enforcement, fire departments. We've used it on numerous times for people calling in a residence on fire. We've have them flip to the video. We can give the fire department live updates of the color of smoke coming out or how much smoke, so that they can be prepared before they even get on scene. Our new communication center, it was cost shared between city and county. There's just a few quick highlights of what we went from to where we are. Most of you have been to the new center, and I know some of you also had seen the old center. So basically approximately 580 square feet to 5,000 square feet overall, but the main floor is about 2,300. Our old center, we had the capability of working 6 people at a time. Now with the new center, we have 8 spaces ready to go on the main floor. We have 2 in the backup room. And we do have space to build out an additional 8 if the need arises. The new space brings break room, locker room, relaxation, lactation room, conference room. The leads have their own office space. If they need to take an employee off the floor, have a one-on-one conversation, they can go in there and do paperwork that they need to get done, and then my office as well. As mentioned, the backup center is located right there at the new center, just off our main floor. We were able to reuse our councils that were located at 770 Iowa Street. The architect or the council company was able to redesign it to use those exact councils at the backup room, so that was a saved cost on our end. It's a hardened area where the dispatchers can move during severe weather. Actually, when you walk into that space, it kind of reminds you of being at the old center. It's about the exact same size. And they have it set up about the exact same way, so it's kind of deja vu. I inserted a few pictures. The bottom with the table obviously is the conference room. We have added a large TV to that area. We do utilize that. That's where we had our training. We do a lot of staff training in there, online meetings. And then the other bottom corner is the leads office. So they are close to the floor. They're able to get out there in a hurry if needed. But it also gives them space to have that private conversation if needed. Future initiatives, Tom Berger touched on this a little bit. We're in the early stages of it, but we are meeting with Dubuque County to talk about possibly transitioning 911 center from city to county. He mentioned there is 99 counties in the state of Iowa, and then after reaching out to a few of the counties, I feel like there's 99 counties and we do it 99 ways. So I'm doing my best to collect from those that we know are kind of on the model of what we might be looking for, and then passing that along to the committee. We are, again, in the early stages of it, but hopefully we'll progress through and get some answers to the questions that everyone has on it. Other future initiatives is our new CAD system. This also has been a lot of ongoing meetings, staff input, involvement. This is a very, very big part of what dispatch's job is. We are anticipating the go live to be the end of 2026, October, November, hopefully. Again, this was a $3 million project and the cost was shared between city, county. County deputies will utilize it. We do have county fire and EMS agencies that are buying in on it. City fire, the jail, records, everyone will come together on it, same as what we currently have with our current system. And then I did add the prepared 911, the paid version, the translation of the audio calls, the transcripts of the phone calls right there in front of the dispatchers. They do have a quality assurance portion that is available as well. We have not went live with that yet because we're working out a few bugs at a time, not everything all at once. The dispatchers also are able to use, they have basically, it's an AI bot that will translate, and a couple of our leads have been able to use that on recent calls, and they said that it works quick, it's very accurate, and we were able to get the help there a lot quicker than trying to get through the language line to find someone to help. This is our requested property tax support. $17.87 is the average homeowner cost for the 911 service, and we do show on here that half of our operating budget is reimbursed by the county They are billed for that every month. I have a slide on here. This slide I have shown the last few years that I have been up here with the surcharge funding. You're going to see in one of our improvement packages, we are asking for some money to help with a 911 surcharge shortfall. As you see FY26 and FY27, it is consistently trending downward. That is due to the 911 surcharge that we typically would get from the state. The state is now holding some of that back to cover their own costs, and we are depleting what we had in a reserve to be able to pay our bills, so that's leaving us also as a short. And it's not just Dubuque County, it's obviously across the state. But I wanted to put in here what the estimates were, just so you would kind of have an idea of the downward trend of the amounts. Total phone calls handled by the Communication Center FY25 was 116,542. I do have it broke out by 911 calls versus non-emergency. Obviously by the slide you can tell we do have busier months when the weather is warmer, which trends, that's typical. Our calls for service for the last 3 fiscal years, they are slightly down. Typically when people have business down, they're sad. I'm happy. Less emergencies is a good thing. But the police and the sheriff and Dubuque Fire, I pull out individually to show what their counts are. And then the county fire EMS is all of our volunteer agencies lumped together in that 3,443. And then same for county law. That's all of our smaller towns, Asbury, Cascade, Dyersville, Epworth, Farley, all of them together is that 16,000. The no agency events, that's everything handled by the dispatch center. So it could be 911 hangups, it could be duplicate calls. There's a variety of things that play into that, but that's how that number gets to the 7,000. 911 answer time. Again, total number of 911 calls answered was 25,488, and 97.7% of those were answered in 0 to 9 seconds. The dispatch staff has done a phenomenal job of quick, and that's my biggest request is please, please, please get it before the first ring is done, if at all possible. If it has to ring a second time, understandable, but preferably only if it's a non-emergency and if you're already on a phone. So they have done phenomenal at getting the calls answered quickly, and coincidentally, our non-emergency and 911s together also have 97.7% of them answered in 0 to 9 seconds. So overall, they have done phenomenal on getting the phones picked up quickly. I throw a slide in here usually with the calls for service just by hour of day, and this is for fiscal year 25 as well. Just kind of shows you where the trend of the busyness is across the board. Obviously, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning isn't really happen until we get to noon through the evening hours, tends to be a little bit busier. The recommended improvement requests, the first one is going to be that 911 shortfall of funds. That is a non-reoccurring, and that is, we put the request in with the city, and the same amount request went to the county as well. The second improvement package is a request for myself and the lead 911 public safety dispatchers to become certified in quality assurance program through Priority Dispatch, which is our emergency medical police fire dispatch program that we use. This also is non-reoccurring. They will have to do continuing education hours, but we already have that in our budget for our training budget, so we did not have to ask for anything extra on that. Number 3 is the improvement package to request the upgrade of our current testing software. When we get a list of applicants for the 911 dispatcher positions, we bring them in and they take what's called a critical test. It does everything from multitasking, typing skills, listening skills. The program that we have, we've had for a long time. The current software is outdated and they're no longer doing updates to it. So we had to move to, we're still staying with critical, but we're just moving to a new version of it. And that will be reoccurring. Number 4 is software to help us track and manage our training that the dispatchers do. when they go in to do their recertification on their emergency medical, police, and fire, they have to have so many hours of training, and they have to be able to list what that training is. Our current CAD software allows us to track that now, but the new CAD software will no longer have a tracking mechanism for the training program. So the request number 4 is to get a side set of software to be able to track the training, and this is a reoccurring cost. And then number 5, my 4 lead dispatchers are my primary trainers in the comm center. So this improvement package is to send them to an online or virtual communication training officer program specifically for dispatch. And that will be able to get them all in a standardized training with standardized documentation and have all of them on the same page of when we're training new staff. And then that will be non-recurring. Here are our goals, all of which have been met. The percentage of all phone calls answered in 10 seconds or less, the number of total phone calls that the Dubuque Communication Center receives. Part of our education and outreach to the public is we have 4 dispatchers, myself, lead dispatcher Caitlin McDade, Crystal Campbell, and Lisa Lugrain. We go out to first grade classes throughout Dubuque and Dubuque County and teach them about 911, the importance of how to call. We do practice calls with the children. So that's our activity there. We did last year 26 schools, 63 classes, and we met with 1,201 students to be able to, and we get great feedback. We do give evaluations to each of the classes, and they all have nothing but positive to say. The kids love to see us. We give them all coloring books, and they're thrilled. A lot of times when you think of 911 dispatch, you think of answer the phone, page the radio, but the dispatchers are in charge of a lot of other tasks aside from phones and radios. So I just wanted to throw this slide in here to give you kind of a perspective of some other tasks that they do complete. I did mention earlier, we do have the clerk. She works Monday through Friday, so she does help with some of this paperwork, but she's the initial entry point. Then the dispatchers have to second review, third review, make sure there's no errors. Everything that gets submitted to the state, if there is an error, we want to catch it before the state catches it and get it corrected, because obviously we don't want that coming back as an error from state. So the dispatchers accumulatively went through 6,040 validations, entered 1,811 warrants. They modified 1,634 no contact orders, entered 118 missing persons reports, and that could be juveniles or adults. And then I'm primarily the one that does the tape requests, and those come from officers, county attorney's office, private attorney's office, whomever's doing investigations. I did 760 tape requests. I want to thank you very much for your time tonight. I also want to give a shout out to your family, because it is a lot for you to be here every night, and your families are also the ones taking the hit for that because they're missing home time. So thank you, and thank you.
That's a nice thing to say, Jessica. Thank you. They appreciate that.
Yes.
They do. We'll be sure to tell them when we see them again someday. We'll take any comments from the public first. So on the Emergency Communications Department budget. Seeing nobody here. Anything virtually? No. All right. Okay, back to us for any discussion then. Yeah, Ms. Weffel.
I'll start. The improvement package, 1 of 6, for the basically shortfall from the state. Did we see that coming? I mean, what's the forecast for the next? I know this is a non-recurring item, but I would anticipate this will be a recurring cost of some sort.
It kind of, it's in limbo right now, is the best way I can answer it. So there is work at the legislature level to try and get something passed where they can raise the rate, where we would get more funds. There's talk of it being a percentage. It could increase each year, but there's nothing set solid yet. I mean, hopefully, in the perfect world, that would raise, everything would pass, it would raise, we would get more money, and we would not need all of what we're requesting. That would be ideal, but we don't have an answer of where we're going, and we're 100% going off of estimates at this point. We don't have any exact numbers. So we just went through the budget with our budget director on the 911 committee side and came up with what we think we're going to be short, and that's how we came up with that number.
Well, in a time in which we've talked a little bit during budget of unfunded mandates from the state, this isn't that, but we have to pay for it somehow.
Right.
And so we can cut taxes over here, but if we have to pay for our emergency services over here at a local level, but you're telling us we can't raise that money at a local level, it's starting to feel very conflicting to me, and I know I'm probably not the only one, but it's really difficult for me to understand how someone can feel that emergency services should be part of that discussion, because to me that's very black and white. If the state has funded it, the state needs to fund it, and setting that back upon municipalities and then defunding us seems incredibly inappropriate in a time in which families are struggling and we are struggling. And so this isn't your decision, I know. But I anticipate that this will be a recurring request, but you can't ask for it to be a recurring item because we don't know what it is going to be. So again, that's us trying to figure out, okay, well, next year, gosh, I don't know, the shortfall, is it going to be $400,000, $500,000? And we have no way to know.
And this year, we also had a shortfall, which was split between city and county, but I was able to cover that funds with money that I had from being on being short staff. We were able to just move some money around a little bit to cover the costs of that shortfall. But yeah, we don't have a prediction of which direction it's going to go.
And it's hard for each department, and then us as a city overall, of course, to forecast out our fiscal year 28 and 29 and 30 when we also have capital improvements in these things, because this is money that we must pay, we must fund. Yes. But I guess I'm just talking out loud about my frustration with that.
And the surcharge funds, there's a lot of rules with them. So they can't be used to pay for your staff. They have to be used for radio towers and computer, there is a specific line of stuff that they can be used for, and there's a specific of what they cannot be used for. So that also kind of puts a little bump in the road when you have to follow all those guidelines as well.
Yeah, wow. And then just as I mentioned during Chief Scheller's presentation, you guys are knocking it out of the park. And I'm just curious about what you relate that to, if it's new technology, if it's training, of course it's staff, but I want to give you kudos because I work in healthcare, and door to balloon time in the hospital is what I know this to be. But for you guys, this is call to service. So just a major impact since 2022. So I'd love you to speak about it.
Okay. We switched it up. All of the dispatchers are trained, and I mentioned that in the emergency medical, where a program pops up on their screen, 911, what's your emergency? They get the address, what's the emergency? The person tells them what's going on, what's happening. If it's a structure fire, they're immediately hitting the button. We're not asking any more questions until after we've hit the button, which is getting all of the units rolling much quicker. I met with the fire chief and some of her staff. We sat down and we picked out seven priority calls, we'll call them. They're definitely always going to be a hot call. It's a code 1, they're going lights and siren, they need to get there as quick as they can. Chest pain, difficulty breathing, a full code where they're not breathing. The major calls. So if a 911 caller calls in, we're getting their address, and if they say, I have difficulty breathing, I'm having chest pain, we were sending them immediately. Right out of the gate, we weren't asking any other questions, where prior to, we were asking usually about 3 questions before it would give you the prompt to send the emergency help. And that was very successful. So now basically any call in the city, we're just preempting them. As soon as the call comes in, we know it's a city call, we know it's going to be a medical or whatever type of call, we're dispatching them, and then the dispatcher continues to ask all those questions. So as the truck and the ambulance are en route, we are getting the information they need and we're updating them. Where they used to have it right when they pulled out of the garage, now they're more getting it as they pull up to the house, because we're taking the time, we're still giving the callers the time they need to be able to explain to us what's going on, but we're getting them out of the garage a lot quicker.
Wonderful. Well, again, congratulations.
Working. Yes.
It's really impressive numbers.
Thank you.
Very happy for you and glad for our community to have such service. Thank you.
Welcome.
While we're still kind of on the subject of these 911 surcharge funds, and I completely agree with what I heard from Ms. Wethel here, but I'm looking at the amount. I mean, we're essentially like being asked to fund what would be the equivalent of a full-time employee on an annual basis now because of a shortfall. This is the first time you've asked us to be able to fund that too, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a ridiculous problem that needs to be fixed. And it is extremely frustrating. I do have a question, Mike. Maybe you can answer it, I don't know. But Tom, in his last presentation, mentioned this emergency management levy. Would a levy like that be able to fund things like this with emergency communications? Is that, if you have an emergency management levy that's created in the county, would you be able to fund some of these things in this way through a separate levy? Do we know the answer to that question?
Do you know, Jessica?
So, is Tom still here?
Yeah. Tom just got outed. Yeah, that's great. Tom's hiding.
Yeah. They don't exactly have an EMA levy in the state of Iowa.
Oh, okay.
But it can, the talks that we're having with the county, the things that we're finding out from other counties is it's going, there's a possibility to tax and then it go in on an EMA line item. Do you want to add to that?
Thanks for sticking around, Tom.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And that's where some of the funding comes. There was legislation that didn't pass where it would make that commission that I work for a taxing body. That didn't go anywhere. But since 2010, there's been in Chapter 29C where the Emergency Management Commission can fund for emergency communication costs. So that would all be, and that'd be kind of the model that we'd be looking at going to, where it'd be taxed across the county. But right now, that just comes out of the supervisor's budget under the general supplemental. So
Got it.
That's where it's actually at, even though a lot of the counties say it's an emergency management levy. It is requested by the Emergency Management Commission to the supervisors, and they fund it through that supplemental levy.
Which is another levy that would be capped essentially under the property tax legislation that's being discussed in the legislature. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is where the conversation starts to get pretty ridiculous. I just got to be honest. That when we're talking about the fact that I understand that we all want our taxes to be low, but at the same time, services cost something. I mean, these services cost money, and to be able to have to we're now backfilling this on an annual basis. And I mean, you're going to come next year to ask for the same thing if we don't have a fix for this at the legislative in the legislature. So I really, this is definitely something we need to have serious conversations about with our legislators in this next year and beyond, because we can't, this can't be put on cities and counties going forward is the bottom line. So I'm just glad we've had a chance to talk about this a little bit. Thank you for the information. I think it'll be interesting conversation going forward, but it's definitely one that needs to happen because it's an incredibly important service that you're providing clearly. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Mr. Esmond.
While we're talking about that, I just wanted to say that because it's where it is, because it's $200,000, and there are some communities who will not be able to afford that. And so you're going to have communities not have the emergency communications that are needed. I mean, that's not our situation. Good budgeting and good priorities and fantastic folks that are working with you. I mean, that's the good side about this is the bad side and the good side. The bad side is that it's $195,000, but the good side is we've got a great department that we're supporting. But that's again what I would really is the scary part is that there are some communities who are going to have to say, well, we can't afford that. We're not going to have the emergency communication that we need.
Yeah.
Wow,
Or
that's
they're going to have to cut
that's
somewhere else
horrible.
that really needs it.
Well, yeah. So anyway, I'm glad that because of good budgeting in past years and making this a priority, we're going to be able to do this because our citizens, our residents, absolutely need everybody here, and of course, you're connecting the police department, the fire department, so many things, right? And you're such an essential service. So thank you very much. And I just wanted to clarify, it's not in the number and the budget highlights because we're not using tax funds this year because, right, we're using the GDTIF loan repay, correct? So that's not really included in this first budget summary.
It's not included as a property tax
Right.
expense.
Right, so, and how often do we do the loan repay?
Once.
Yes, this is the first time I remember using this. So, I mean, we're in a good position this year to do it, but again, I'm sure our state partners are going to want us to step up, and Mayor will encourage them to do so. So, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions or discussion on this one? Yeah, Ms. Whittle, go ahead.
And this is more of a legislative question, but I'm wondering what the discussions are amongst professionals like you in the state in taking the shortfall into consideration. Is this a push to regionalize? Does the state, and maybe you don't want to answer that, and I respect that if you don't, but it would seem that potentially that might be something, especially you mentioned, Councilmember Resnick, how unfortunate it is for smaller communities that would not be able to cushion this blow, that then they would be forced to regionalize.
So it's currently on the table. One of the options is if you're in a county that has more than one PSAP, you will not get the full funding. They're encouraging them to all go to one PSAP. Dubuque is fortunate, we're one PSAP, so if they say it's $1.25, we would get the full $1.25, where those others who have multiple PSAPs in their county, they would not get that.
And the state would just say, fight amongst yourselves for it?
I don't know. I've had this conversation with Mike. We are in a great spot right now with the new center to be able to bring on others, but also it kind of breaks your heart a little bit because those small counties absolutely fight tooth and nail for everything they have, and I don't want to be the bully per se coming in saying, hey, we'll just take them all, just bring them here, we've got room, because that's not the answer either. They work hard for what they have, just as we work hard for what we have, but down the road, we're ready. You know, if it comes down to they want to cover our radios from 10 at night till 6 in the morning, we can't find staff or something like that, we're prepared to do that. And we're open to the idea of regionalization down the road.
Thank you for your forward thinking.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, please, Mike.
So in 2025, the governor had a DOGE committee, kind of like the federal government did. And in their report, they encouraged shared services. So the governor asked for $10 million in this budget cycle for a fund to encourage local governments of all kinds to create shared service opportunities. I don't think it's in the budget to be funded and approved by the legislature at this point. Maybe it's not over. But we're hoping that the idea that the DOGE report said that shared services was a good idea, that maybe this idea of regional 911 centers would be a good idea. So we'll see.
Well, I hope that whatever idea we come to in the state is an idea that's done because it's the safest and most effective thing for the people who live here. That's what I would hope for. And whether regionalization is that or not, I'm not convinced. But this is an interesting conversation to have at least. I mean, as it applies to us, I think it really raises some exclamation points for me about what the years ahead look like for this. So I am glad that we are set up in a way that we can expand if need be. I'm glad that, I mean, you have worked so many efficiencies into the system. Congratulations on that, by the way, for all of you. I mean, the numbers are really incredible. I know Ms. Wethel was pointing that out. But I mean, this is the most positive presentation that you have given to us that I can remember, because you have done some really important work, and there are still challenges there. It's always going to be hard work. Your job's never going to be easy. But the fact that you're making it more, the process is now more efficient, I think is just incredible work for the people who live here in Dubuque and through the entire county. So really appreciate it. I really appreciate what you're doing. So thanks for everything.
We got a great team.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. All right, well, I think we're at the end of that presentation. So Jessica, thank you very much, and thanks for being here tonight. We have come to the final department presentation of the fiscal year 27 budget. Of course, it's a voice we all know well. The voice of reason. There's Mary Rose Corrigan. We're ready when you are, Mary Rose. We might move around a little bit, but we're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Mary Rose Corrigan. I'm the Public Health Director, here for your final departmental budget hearing of the Health Services Department. The mission of the Health Services Department is to provide effective public health services to prevent the spread of disease and other health conditions while promoting the health, safety, and well-being of our citizens and the environment. These community and association partners are what keeps us current and makes us able to do coordinated public health programs and responses. We form relationships before we need them. The Health Department has 7.14 full-time equivalents. The 0.14 is an intern, which is currently vacant right now. This is our enthusiastic Health Services Department team. We have 7 employees. And I do not want to forget our customer service manager, who brings a smile to every face that walks in the office, and that is Sig. Some of our 2025 highlights revolve around employee development and leadership, efficiencies in processes, and new software. I'll speak to some of these a little later. Current initiatives. We are undergoing full implementation of our new pet licensing system, DocuPet, which was a new contract we formed just last fall. Finalizing our public health emergency response plan in conjunction with Dubuque County. We hope to complete some animal control ordinance updates. The Crescent Community Health Center is going to provide mobile dental services. We're participation in city facility planning, a new software system for our food inspection program, and we received an FDA, Food and Drug Administration, a grant for food safety training and education for our inspectors. We continue to hold emergency preparedness drills for city staff biannually. We're going to be embarking with the Citizen Serve software. The Housing and Community Development Department and I believe engineering are also using this for complaint tracking. And we're going to do wastewater monitoring for diseases. Our property tax asking for the department is $867,778, with $13.48 for the average homeowner's property tax for health services. As you are hearing tonight, fire, police, emergency communications, our emergency management agency, and health work as an integrated public safety network in Dubuque, combining our expertise to prevent hazards, respond to emergencies, and support community well-being. We are the Public Health and Safety Impact Team. Through continual communication and shared efforts, ranging from emergency planning and coordinated response to nuisance investigations, animal control, and public health protection, the teams act as one system that is always observing, informing, and supporting one another. The Health Services Department specifically plays a key role by responding to disease outbreaks, managing environmental health risks such as lead poisoning, and contributing to preparedness efforts, while fire, police, and EMA provide critical on-scene response, incident management, and operational coordination. 911 Communications works directly with all of us to provide an avenue for 24/7 communication, both internally and externally. Together, these departments create a unified approach that strengthens safety, resilience, and quality of life for Dubuque residents. An example of this in this photo is the Public Health and Safety Impact Team was during the COVID-19 pandemic. The fire department assisted at vaccination clinics and delivered vaccines. Police provided security, and a safety system of notification for EMS and police was developed through the 911 communications for police and firefighters. Quarantine and isolation centers had meals delivered by firefighters. The community received necessary supplies, and police enforced emergency declarations. The department managers of these departments, along with the Public Health Emergency Response Plan or Sanitarian, also make up the city's Preparedness Committee. And our main task is to assure departments are prepared for a variety of emergencies and large events that impact the city. We do this through education, drills, and exercises, continuity of operations plans, and guidance for preparing standard operating procedures and incident action plans for. This team assures city staff are ready to respond to a variety of disasters, events, and emergencies. As Council Member Resnick often says, failure to plan is planning to fail. Now onto our environmental health activity. This activity provides food inspections, swimming pool and spa inspections at 29 public facilities, tattoo inspections, hotels as needed, nuisance control, and of course, the public health preparedness planning through our which is half of our, one of the sanitarians. The food inspection program is through a contract with the Iowa Department of Inspections, Appeals, and Licensure for this service. Inspection frequency is risk-based, varying from 6 months to every 2 years. This shows the number of establishments in 2025, and this does fluctuate from year to year. Through this contract with the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals and Licensure, we collect the license fees, which help support the program. There's always a lot of change in the number of establishments. This kind of shows the different changes happening. The new establishments includes those places closed for at least 90 days and then reopened, and it also includes newly constructed facilities. These new and changing facilities require plan review and extra inspections and guidance by the sanitarians. This is something we don't want to see. The Iowa Capitol Dispatch has a regular column on the restaurant inspections from around the state, highlighting the worst establishments with severe violations. Having a local inspector to promptly address restaurant complaints and violations is key to having safe food for the public and successful food service establishments. Do we get complaints on our Dubuque restaurants? Yes, we do. And they are addressed within a short time period based on the risk level of the complaint, most of the time within the same day or two. We will also conduct weekly or more frequent inspections on establishments with serious and chronic violations, and we do this for as long as it takes to achieve compliance. This map shows all the jurisdictions that contract with Iowa Department of Inspections, Appeals, and Licensure for the food inspection program. The white areas are the places that department or the state covers, and some counties cover multiple departments. There multiple counties, excuse me. Food establishments include restaurants, bars, food trucks, grocery stores, convenience stores, and a lot of other entities that sell food. Our current contract with the Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals is a 3-year contract ending June 2027. As I said before, through this contract, the city collects the license fee revenue and conducts inspections, educates, and provides enforcement. This map shows all the different, how the counties contract with inspections and appeals for the tattoo and pool inspection agencies. Many counties cover several counties. The areas in white are done by that county or local board of health, and the only county that's inspected by the state is Polk County. These technically are contracted with the local board of health or Dubuque County, and then they subcontract with us, and we collect the inspection fees for this program. And we do conduct the inspections on this for the entire county for public swimming pools. The sanitarians also do a number of nuisance complaints every year. They went down a little bit this year. And they have, the goal is to do enforcement through cooperation by the property owner, and most of the time that happens through a notice, a phone call, and a few inspections. Sometimes we do have to issue a municipal infraction, and sometimes we have to hire a contractor to get the nuisance abated. So the goal is to not have a lot of citations issued. In our preparedness planning, one of the areas we focus on is extreme temperatures, both in the winter and the summer. We have a variety of cooling centers that are, some are open weekdays, some are open on the weekends. We only have one that is open 24/7, that is the Dubuque Rescue Mission. And these are all voluntary. These entities and businesses do this on a voluntary basis. Last year, we had 6 different events, 3 heat extreme weather events and 3 cold, each lasting anywhere from 2 to 4 days. And now on to animal control. These are the number of animal requests and complaints we get. Due to changes in software, we don't really have an accurate number for the last fiscal year, but we're rest assured the complaints did not go down. And as a reminder, police provide whatever animal control services they can when the 2 animal control officers are not on duty. We take our impounded animals, or we impound them at the Dubuque Regional Humane Society, those that are apprehended or running loose. Our contract with the Dubuque Regional Humane Society is up for renewal July 1st. We have been in discussions with DRHS since last fall for a new contract, and we are still in negotiations and have not yet reached an agreement due to differences in funding expectations. In FY25, of the 1,254 animals taken to the Dubuque Regional Humane Society, only 13% of the animals taken were reclaimed by their owners. As I mentioned, pet licensing is a big component of the animal control activity. It provides revenue, but mostly importantly, it provides for public safety and assures that pets are vaccinated against rabies, and it promotes responsible pet ownership. The slight dip in the number of licenses purchased is only about 1%. And the revenue had a slight dip also. The goal is for this to improve with our new pet licensing system. The animal bite trend remains pretty steady. Over the past few years, animal bites are required to be reported to our department, and the animal control officers follow up and assure the animals are free of rabies. The number of municipal infractions for animal control ordinance violations decreased slightly. This is mostly likely due to we had 3.5 months where one of the animal control positions was vacant. The most common violation is animals running loose. Our urban deer management program continues, and this season there were 89 permitted bow hunters inside the city limits, and they harvested a total of 127 deer. And as a reminder, without a hunt, even though it seems like there's a lot of deer out there, we'd probably have a 33% increase annually. I'll touch on a little bit of childhood lead poisoning, which we work very closely with our Housing and Community Development Department. This represents the decline of lead-poisoned children. The blue line is the city of Dubuque, the orange line is the state, and you can see we're just going below the state number. Their data is a little bit behind. When this program began in 1994, we had rates as high as 16% of those children tested with elevated blood lead levels. Through medical case management and our HUD grant programs in the Housing Department, we have significantly lowered the rates through the lead poisoning rates. The Center for Disease Control and HUD have lower thresholds for a lead level of concern, or what constitutes lead poisoning, than the state of Iowa's. This requires coordination with our Housing Choice Voucher Program, which has requirements regarding lead poisoning. The bottom line is lead poisoning affects a child's brain development up until at least 6 years of age, and the damage is not reversible. A new initiative we began last fall is wastewater monitoring for diseases, respiratory infections such as RSV, COVID-19, and influenza. So this program started with the Center for Disease Control. These are the results of some of the testing we did for COVID-19 and influenza A. They also do influenza B and RSV. So far, it's mirroring what's happening in the community. This information is also shared on a regular basis with hospitals and public health partners, and as we get further results, we will be providing education, et cetera, next fall. But monitoring will continue year-round. Our Water Resource and Recovery Center collects weekly samples and sends them to the State Hygienic Lab, who analyzes them at no cost, and they also report them to the Center for Disease Control to post on their wastewater monitoring dashboard. And this can be a predictor of diseases that may come or validate what we're seeing in the community. COVID-19, influenza, and RSV, and a lot of respiratory diseases are not reportable, so we don't always have a good handle on what's happening. The Crescent Community Health Center is a bright community partnership. The number of annual patients at Crescent has increased 37% from 2023 to 2025. We have a contract with Crescent to address community health needs and provide services to vulnerable populations. One of those community health needs identified in the last assessment is access to dental care. Crescent is projecting a 10 to 20% growth per year in the number of unique dental patients they will be seeing. In fact, the trend line shows dental visits consistently outweighing medical visits and points to that serious need. Crescent recently received CDBG funding from the city to partially pay for their new mobile dental unit, and that's a diagram of what that's going to look like is pictured here. They are expected to begin services this summer and serve populations that have difficulty getting to a clinic, such as nursing homes and other facilities, and then eventually expand out of Dubuque into their larger service area. The recommended improvement requests include community health needs assessment and health improvement plan outreach and engagement. This fall, we'll be embarking on another community health needs assessment. We do that about every 3 years. And the citizen served permitting and inspection software, both for animal control and environmental health. Animal control wants to hold a pet education community event and also have rabies vaccination vouchers for people who have difficulty vaccinating their pets. We hope to do a pet licensing promotional mailing, both for the learning of the DocuPet system and to promote responsible pet ownership. Some Dale Carnegie courses for both one of the sanitarians and animal control officers, and safety accessories. We also want to take advantage of the national conference in Kansas City this year and some public health emergency preparedness education. Our public health emergency preparedness planner, Mark Murphy, does serve as a backup to Tom Berger for city events when Tom is not available. So, what is public health? And more specifically, what is public health in the city of Dubuque and surrounding Dubuque County? It's a system created by collaborating partners of the city of Dubuque, the Dubuque VNA, the Dubuque County Health Department, and the Dubuque County Emergency Management System, all working together to assess and plan for community health needs, respond to outbreaks, epidemics, and dare I say pandemics, and prepare for public health response to emergencies and events. None of these agencies could provide the core public health functions of assurance, assessment, and policy development, or delivery of essential public health services on our own. But together, we make it work. There's a saying in Iowa, I think Jessica had this saying also, you've seen one public health department, you've seen one public health department. All local public health are unique to their community's needs, wants, capacity, available health care, and many other factors. While we all strive to deliver on core functions and essential services, as in the circle of the diagram, we do it in a variety of ways. Some larger health departments in Iowa, like Lynn County and Scott County, do everything themselves, while others, such as Dubuque, partner with other agencies. There's really no right or wrong way. In Dubuque, Tom Berger and the AMA provide us the framework to respond and prepare for emergencies. The VNA provides immunizations, WIC nutrition program, lead poisoning case management, communicable disease investigation and follow-up, and social services and other clinics and screenings. The County Health Department addresses private water and sewage systems, far more prevalent in the rural areas than in the city of Dubuque, along with the Board of Health responsibilities, special programming such as opioid response through settlement funding. They are the lead for public health emergency preparedness and the community health assessment, and they contract with other community partners on Board of Health funding and activities. We all work together on public health emergency preparedness and response, outbreaks, and pandemics. And we also work together on the community health needs assessment and health improvement plan and public health education and information dissemination to area healthcare providers, residents, and those affected by any emergencies. The City of Dubuque Health Services Department, the VNA, and the Dubuque County Health Department work as a local public health system with some overlap but little redundancies. None of these entities could provide all of the core public health services of assessment, assurance, and policy development that are essential to a local public health department by ourselves. Changes are also coming from the Iowa Health and Human Services Department. Their public health alignment program will be moving forward next year to create public health regions, similar to the mental health regions, with a lead entity in each region subcontracting and monitoring with local health departments. As I reflect on tonight's presentations and those of past presentations of water, the Water Resource Recovery Center, Engineering and Public Works, I'm reminded they all mentioned and have how much influence their role in public health is for Dubuque. I'm proud to have them and all city departments in collaborating for public health. And with that, I thank you, and our department does have a serious side.
They calmed down a little bit in this picture. All right, thank you very much, Mary Rose. Do we have any public input this evening on the Public Health Department? Please.
Clark Slows, 2925 Burlington Street. I don't have a problem with, the Public Health Department. My question deals with what's the status of the legislation where the Iowa State Legislature, where they basically want to gut, Dubuque's Health Department, because I feel that's a decision that should be between the city, the county, and, the local voters here. It's time for Des Moines to butt out.
Thank you, Clark, for your comments. Any other public input this evening? Anything virtually? All right, well, I'll address that question directly, Clark. And my understanding is that there's no real movement on the legislation currently, but it's still there, but it's not moving currently. So that's my understanding, yeah. So discussions, questions? Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. So how is DocuPet, how has that been received by our pet households so far?
Well, there's a learning curve. The goal is to, move people to an online platform. And some have some difficulty with that, and we welcome them into our office to help them. And in fact, we have a kiosk specifically for the public who does not have computers or who needs help learning about it. And we also accept checks directly to us or through the mail through them. It's been a longer implementation than we thought. I think the volume has picked up. We did have some trouble getting the data out of the old system, which delayed our implementation. But I think it's going pretty well, considering all the newness of the program.
Yeah, that's a very important program, the licensing for our residents. I did have some folks who didn't like the last company who would do that, but nothing's perfect. So I am interested in how that's going to work out. I like your phrase. There's some overlaps, but there's few redundancies, right? And everybody has their own way. We just heard about 99 counties having 99 different ways about handling different situations. But I mean, with all the restaurants, with our tourist demands, people come here and expect to have a great time, and you don't have a great time if you're getting sick. And and thank you for that. We have the oldest housing stock in the state, and you probably helped with lead paint grants. Did you apply for those, or how did we?
That's really a partnership between the Housing and Community Development and my department, or the Health Department. We both work on those grant applications, and we also work very closely on implementing the programs.
Sure. So, I mean, I really appreciate that. You talk about all the community health center and so many other things you collaborate with. I remember, and some others remember, how you gave such important information to us during COVID, and you worked very hard, and it was very hard on everyone in your department, but it was very valuable to our residents. So thank you for that. I appreciate what you're doing. The thing is, if we weren't paying the money in this way, we would be paying, we still would need to pay for all the services we would need in another way. But this is tailored to our residents' needs, and a very well-run department, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Ms. Wethel.
Who does the lead inspections in the county?
Well, if they participate in a HUD grant program, ECIA covers it. Otherwise, we have agreed to do those inspections. They are pretty minimal, however, and the Health Department has funds to cover the housing staff to do those inspections that don't fall under the HUD grant program.
And then establishment inspections, I guess I'll call it. Who does those in the county? Are we contracted to do those? Like establishment inspections in the county?
You mean the food establishment?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Outside the city of Dubuque, no. We only do the city of Dubuque.
Okay.
The county is covered by Iowa Department of Inspections and Appeals.
So they do
Staff
come in
employee,
and do our county.
They do. And that inspector, she does Dubuque County, and she also does the whole northeast corner of the state in food manufacturing and processing plants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's got a pretty heavy workload.
Wow, she does.
Yeah.
I guess I would just want to double down on what Councilmember Resnick said. As somebody who was working in a COVID clinic during COVID-19, having your videos each day informing the community, people were coming in better informed, understanding what symptoms they should come in for because they saw your video on Facebook. And not, obviously, No communities were doing it the way we were doing it, and they were doing it different, and that's okay. But we have found this unique way. I didn't realize how unique it is, but we've been doing it, and we've been successful at it. Not just successful, but I would say exceptional. And so we've got it figured out, state of Iowa. I just want you to know that, and your staff, I support everything you do. I'm grateful for your service. And I looked today just to see if there were any updates on the Senate File 2432, and I couldn't find any. But as they come forward, I just wish they'd ask us what we think.
Well, ironically, I was at the Capitol the very first day the subcommittee discussed that. And I informed them of how we operate, but they passed it through.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the session was so full that it crashed the virtual participants.
Yeah. Well, I think that right now the county, Dubuque County, has not budgeted for the services that you provide. And so those budgeted services that we are providing in the city of Dubuque would simply go away. There is no transition, there is no plan from the state that I have seen that would amend that transition. It is simply on and off.
Right.
And the residents of Dubuque County, and specifically the city of Dubuque, would suffer. And we're talking about people's health.
Right.
So I'm not saying this because I don't think you believe it. I'm saying this because I want residents to know just how important this one piece of legislation is to their health and wellness in our community. So, thank you.
Mr. Tabor.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I kind of want to echo what Katie said there, about the health component here. I've worked with Tim for 13, 14 years now. I really appreciate his knowledge. I think some people try to get away with whatever they can get away with. And Tim really takes the time to explain why things are the way they are. He makes my staff better. He makes me better. Makes the restaurant better. Keeps people safe. And I would hate to think of losing that component of the city. It's really, really important for health, for sure. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Yeah, thanks, Mary Rose. Just know we appreciate the work that you do and everybody that works for the department. We have for a long time. I am surprised that somebody might suggest that we don't, I guess. And I was just looking at the list of things that you were talking. I'm Mr. Staver. I like having food inspections done in our city. I like feeling comfortable when I go to the restaurant to be able to eat, that you've actually done the work. I like clean pools. I like the fact that tattoo parlors are inspected to make sure that they're following cleanliness and rules like that. I like nuisance control. I like animal control. Really like deer control. Really would like to see those numbers increase a little bit, but not going to have a long conversation about that tonight. Like the fact that we have pet licensing and that we promote responsible pet ownership. I really enjoy all these things, and I don't know anybody in town who doesn't. I guess I haven't met that person yet. So I agree. I think our city is doing it right, and I think we're doing a good job. I love your quote. You've seen one public health department. You've seen one public health department. You can't forget that Dubuque is pretty unique. If you think about anybody else in the state, is there any other city that sits in a spot like we do, or we're sort of like out on a little island here in that way? It's really not existent anywhere else in Iowa. We are who we are because we are where we are, and we do it this way because it works really well. So thank you for doing it really well. Really appreciate it. All right. Well, that's it, everybody. We've made it to the end of the department budget hearings here. Do we have anything further to discuss in the action item that we have on here? Just anything that we'd need to hold for separate discussion, or any other discussion before we convene on Tuesday for our final budget discussion? Okay. Well, I invite everybody back. We'll all be here, of course, but I invite everybody back for our final budget discussion of actually passing the budget on Tuesday night. And invite any public comment that there might be. So thanks a lot, everybody. No further business. We are adjourned.